Live in 5 indeed. Here we go. I'm gonna bring up our guest. I guess I'm gonna do Mr. B last since he's MIA. I'm not gonna introduce. Mr. B's back, but he's going second last. First guest, long-time listener, first time on the show. Mr. Mike Sowers of Tombstone Racing. Welcome to the show. Oh my God, this guy. Welcome, Mr. B, to the stage. What's going on, Mr. B?
How you doing?
All right, I think Mike's ready now. Mike, you ready? All right, I hear him.
Yo, I was trying.
I did your intro already, so it's off to you now.
Let's see your eyes, Mike.
These are my eyes.
Close up.
It's really bright. It's really bright out here, so we're gonna go with the sunglasses today. Out here at the Kentucky Derby, it's really sunny. You know,
is it sunny in Kentucky right now?
Well, 0% chance of rain. It's looking mighty sunny out here.
Yeah, I've seen zero turn into yielding, so good luck with that. And then our last guest, well, I'm not going to intro him because he just talks too much. Statins, welcome back to the panel.
Thanks. We got the field locked. It is a fast condition for tomorrow's Derby.
All right, I'll check it out. I didn't look at it, so we're coming into it. I had my bologna sandwich and my little snacks. I had my drink, my water, my vegetables.
I really botched the background. I'm trying to figure out how to make my background the Kentucky Derby, and it's just not working.
Do you have the image of it? You can I think you have to upload it into your.
Yeah, that's what I was trying, but I'm a noob, so it's all right. Yeah. I'll get it by tomorrow.
I have a horse background, but I don't like it, and I'm shit with editing. So let's get this off. Let's get the race up, and I guess we'll open up with that. All right, so it's gone. Later, homie.
Fixing his background.
Yeah, I don't think you have to disconnect yourself to do all that. All right, Derby. I guess we can focus on that for a little bit and then ease into it. Because Stans, I gotta tell you right now, Mr. B did bring up a good point. Might have to break out the mute button tonight. I did only give you a 10-minute talk window, and I've been pretty lenient with that so far. If I don't say so myself. So we're
10 plus or minus an hour and a half.
Listen. Maybe you can borrow someone's StreamYard and go talk. Maybe.
That's what this one's for.
Yeah, I know. All right. Are you in here?
Well, not in a race that's been run. You're in a different lobby. You should probably let someone else share screens. We're in the
probably do my vegetables more than 2 minutes before the stream starts. You know what I mean?
Could be.
I'm slow Gary tonight. Let's go. All right. Sapphire, I was given. Known fact was in the last one, I think. The last one was kind of, well, I guess there really wasn't a last Derby. I'm considering the qualifiers derbies, but this is the actual Derby. Have you had Apollo in this yet? In the last one, or no?
He was in the last one. It went yielding. He started strong, then died. People often overlook the first Left D major, and he actually won the first major with a 101 fleet figure and won by like a full furlong. So I'm pretty optimistic, but if the haters want to hate and they want Pellinger Fields, let them have it.
Well, fleet figures are, they are what they are. I like them still. I just like stoking the cold sometimes. Maybe they do need tweak. I only run one horse, so I don't have a good sample size. Mine's pretty consistent. Like it either drops 5 or gains 5, and if not, it stays in the middle. As long as it's in the right race. But
yeah, this race is a solid 6 furlongs too short for Apollo, but he's won it before. There's no reason he can't win it again.
101's. I wanted to ask you. We were on a stream before. 101's the highest, right? That's the highest fleet figure so far.
Of like the non-fluke race, like there was a maiden or something that went yielding and had A minuses running like 100. Like there's no reason that was a good number. So to my knowledge, 101 is the best number. Someone can correct that if they know differently, but
I don't pay attention to those numbers. They're all Fakakta.
Mr. B does not like fleet figures. Don't worry, we got fleet figures too coming in hot.
I actually think that'd be great. I think that would actually unlock being able to actually bet on these races if there was some consistency and you could actually figure out form and stuff like that from the fleet figures. Right now, the numbers seem to not be consistent. 4-year-old should not be running much lower fleet figures than they ran at 2. That doesn't make any sense. And
wouldn't that contribute to aging?
yeah, but a horse should be basically peaking at like 3 to 4, not at 2. So something's screwy with them. They're useful figuring out distance preferences, but something's wrong with them. They released them like in November of last year. There's been no update since then in terms of how they operate. So I'm not saying they can't be very useful. They just have given us very little information, and they're very inconsistent in that. I can't make heads or tails of them. Maybe one of the data guys, maybe Gap Data can probably figure it out.
BG, I need to get BG's ass over here. I'm sick of this shit. This is why I need him. But
Is BG a data guy from the other game?
yeah, he's great. He's fucking great.
Yeah, so far, yeah, I mean, I don't understand, honestly, why these data people are wasting their time with breeding tools, because, like, it's going to be really tough to create a breeding tool that outdoes the reports. Maybe it's better for, like, the people that don't have reports, but...
Yeah, I mean, the tool, at least, like, if they, they start on it now, they tweak it as it goes. And, when we get deeper in the game, then it'll, there's no reason to go back and tweak stuff. But, yeah, I don't think
I like what they're doing, because someone that I've been
cool.
helping showed me MJ's thing, and I was like, I don't know how I could use this, but Gavon or Gap Data, they said they're going to wait a few months before they even put out a tool, which I really like, because, it shows that they're actually taking a more scientific approach than just saying boost equal this or whatever.
Yeah, that's I'm all for the tools and hoping that they get tuned as the game.
Oh, I can just disappear. Where did I go? I'm hanging out here in the stands, and it's pretty. Oh, I'm back. We're good.
Do I have mine?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I have my horses in the background. Let me see.
Are there any iPad girls there or no?
I have seen a few iPad girls wandering, but they're all Twin Spires girls so far. Yeah, they're doing a great job out there. They're, I wonder if any of them are even legal age, but they're out there.
Timeouts. I'm gonna start handing out.
It's Friday. It's Friday. Do you not know what happens at the Kentucky Derby? It's the Oaks. We were there. It's 50,000 high school kids that are partying like they're in college. There was medics called to the bathrooms. I literally overheard high school kids talking about some illicit drugs that I've never even done. So it's a wild day out here at the Oaks. Apparently all these kids get out of high school, and I'm just ready for tomorrow to be around grown adults out here.
Jesus Christ. What are we doing?
You came to the right place for grown adults with us.
You can let Stens analyze the Derby. I mean, there's 4 solid LDF horses, and then a 5th if you want to count Dozier. And then you have a couple of the really good LDSs, but I don't know, like Elvis obviously won the last Derby, but now you're on a firm. So obviously the distance preference is there, but I don't know that that'll be enough to overcome the LDFs. So why don't you break down the LDFs for us?
21, so I'm likely just gonna ride with Elvis this time around and not do any homework, because like these are cool. Listen, and it's obviously a lot of times when I ran, it sounds like I'm shitting on stuff, but like the Derby's cool, but to me, this is meaningless.
Come on, you're shitting on it?
To me, this is meaningless.
It's not going to be meaningless to Stens if he gets third again or whatever.
What is it? I guess it'll be December is when we get the first real Derby. Like,
oh, well.
I want 3-year-olds. That's just me. I want as real as it gets, baby. You know what I'm talking about? I want as real as it gets.
Well, you've got Pellinor, who's been a nose away from winning one. You've got Apollo that knows what it's like to win and just totally died out of corner 3 after pretty much looking like it was going to smoke the field. And Swift Sapphire is just dying to win for big break, and
it won right dirt. I correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Swift Sapphire's already won a major. It just was on the wrong orientation in that case. So yeah, I mean, I don't want it to be a boring analysis, but it does seem to come down to Swift Sapphire, Apollo, Pelner Fields. Dozier could be interesting, and then you can't rule out Elvis. I would be fairly surprised if anything else won. I mean, if Fleet Figures is Mr. B's taboo thing, other than people talking about him being cheap and breeding, but
we'll get to
my taboo thing would probably be the morning line odds, which used to be useful, and they're not anymore. But if you looked at them, like Rocket Cashel always pulls great morning line odds. Did again here. But I don't think it's a contender for this. So we'll see. Elvis and Dozier are probably your wild cards.
Telling nothing's just cooked. I guess salt. I mean, the one star pref, like.
I just
you get
think
turf
Dozier
as well. It's gonna be tough.
Dozier's dead. I mean, Dozier doesn't have the heart to win. I would almost consider other tickets that have more heart a chance, but I'm looking through that now.
Who do you have in there?
Because we haven't said the name, Talk Derby to me is the 4th Scuba LDF.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you next. Aren't the Scubas supposed to dominate this distance?
Yeah.
In this situation?
So the 4 are Swift Sapphire, Apollo, Pelner Fields, and Talk Derby to me. They all seem to have slightly different distance preferences, and this distance would seem to be best for Swift Sapphire or it's probably a little too long for Talk Derby to me. And then Apollo would love this to be a 12 furlong race, maybe 14 furlongs, and Pelner Fields can do 10 plus at that point. So
in the past, too, Talk Derby to me has pretty much no-showed, right? Or am I wrong on that? In the big derbies? No, I got 4th and 5th. Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, well, the first one was 10 runners. The last one, 4th. Yeah, I mean, it's almost boring analysis with trying to look at this race based on everything Stin said. It's like, it's hard to even create storylines, to be honest, other than, Stin's finishing 10th would be an ultimate storyline.
So basically just proving my point that this race is kind of meaningless.
Yeah, I mean, from a drama standpoint, yes.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Once the first crop hits 3, now we have stories because we'll have the 2-year-old season to look at, and then we'll have the upcoming 3-year-old. Then the stories.
Well, you've got big barns, like 2 of the biggest left dirt barns aren't even running anything right now. Eddie from Pocono Racing's got all his stuff retired. He's got 3 S plus foals already. And then Olas GVG's got some solid LD pieces that are retired and bred as well. So it will become interesting when you can have a race of, if it's going to be 0% like this, if you can have a race that has 15 LDF horses and maybe 5 soft, then it gets interesting. But I think the turf softs you can probably cross off for the most part. Like if one got 3rd, would I be shocked? No. If one won, would I be shocked? Absolutely. Galad and Gate 3, another big brain horse, right turf firm, seems pretty unlikely. We'll see. That's why they run the race, I guess.
Yeah, that's why. I'm not trying to damper anyone's hopes. Obviously, we have new players coming in, but most of these new players, if they've been around, they not call it how I see it. I just don't think this. Not any excitement. I'm not trying to rain on people's parades though. Even though it sounds like I'm fucking pouring on people's parades right now. But
yeah, I think you are.
I think the storyline starts when we hit August. What dates y'all? Whenever we can fire the first maidens of the first crops. That's when the story starts. The story was fine. Like, okay, these are some of the stallions, and this is who's gonna build the game out from here. And now it's on to the real episode.
So that's the end of October then, right?
No, first foals can race right away in September, right?
Right, it's in the
August.
the first real 3-year-old Derby would be then at the end of October, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So what about Nevada Smith as a real kind of long shot, just based on having an extra half boost on firm, but also 3 hard on the ticket? Has that one been running okay in qualifiers this week, or just dead?
I think it won an actual legitimate left dirt firm qualifier over 2 or 3 good S's actually, but I just don't see it. I mean, the better argument maybe is Scuba Ringer, because that is another Scuba. It's just an S minus. Yeah, I don't think either are live particularly. So top 6 maybe. Podium,
Yeah,
probably not.
Should have bet in this last big major. I'm right there sloppy. I don't know if that's what the actual Nevada Smith left or off pref. All right.
Yeah.
Is the fight slow for anyone else, or is it just Verizon being Verizon?
What, the site?
Yeah.
My site seems to be working. No, it's a little slow. It's the site.
It's been like that all week, I feel.
Yeah, a little definitely intermittent. I've trying to discuss to them, I don't know if it's server or just all the updates they're doing, plus just the new volume of people, but yeah.
When you get guys putting fillies in the barn or in the marketplace for 19,000, you got 20 users refreshing every second on the marketplace to make sure they're not missing it.
Yeah,
I literally thought about calling in sick because it looks like there was some possibilities for just sitting and watching this while 2 big spenders possibly could be busy.
Yeah, Sten's ruined it for everybody.
I did not. Breaking Bad got the deal. I paid a real price. I just paid
I thought
for
that was
quicker than I should have.
basically.
That's true, but you did it so quickly that I think he was like, "Oh my God, what the hell's going on here?" Let me.
I saw PFL General. They said everybody makes mistakes. It was called a mistake, so I'll leave it at that. I made a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a relatively fair retail price.
It
was.
Yep.
Like when I looked at it, I wasn't like, oh.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I mean,
the other thing we touch on news as we go is like I'm gonna, as it picks up and there's more things to do. There were a couple nice sales today. I know Crimson made a purchase and got a nice piece. I believe he bought a retired horse. That was pretty cool.
No, it wasn't retired. I retired it after that.
Oh, I thought you actually bought a retired.
I think Soulmates bought a retired horse.
Oh, yeah. I apologize.
Retired, retarded. We don't know for sure. It was like 3,000 Derby purchase.
Soulmates was like, "Oh, let me buy this," and then he was like, "Oops."
Yeah, I feel like that sometimes. Y'all can afford it. It's all right. Y'all can afford the $40 or whatever it was.
I think that the best purchase, and I'm not sure if it was the actual price paid on the site, but the Aristotle horse going through and doing the right dirt stuff looks like a very strong bloodline. And I think that 9922 in RDF gives you the most avenues you can breed with. I have one myself, and I just think, A, they're pretty good stat horses, but B, you can go to 21, 23, eventually 24. Prime time, doc. You just have every avenue available almost.
Yeah, I don't know that was true.
It was an arranged deal, but it was good in the sense that K. Kirk is. I'm a huge fan of his from back in the other game days. Hopefully, we can get him on the stream here sooner than later, and actually maybe streaming somewhat regularly himself. I would say, to call him skeptical of the game for the longest time would be putting it mildly. I think he was actually fairly critical of the game. Some of the leadership stuff, comments about Zed. Maybe my second time out in the Discord was related to a comment I'd gotten from K. Kirk about leadership. But it's nice to see him come in with a meaningful buy, because it'd be just as easy for him to buy something for 50,000 that could have been a great 50,000 buy. Like maybe it was worth 60,000. Great deal. But this is like, now you have a solid foot in for a guy like that. Now other people, I'm sorry if 100,000 seems like that's 4 feet in, but this is something that's meaningful for K. Kirk at this point. So I thought that was good to see for sure. And I know he's get a cover on top of it with Zeus coming up.
For as much complaining as he did while it was in beta and not being able to race for real money, as soon as they turned the switch over, he was nowhere to be found. And it's like, come on, dude, like you got these assets. Let's go. I would message him because I was like, I'll give me a price on your horse and maybe I'll buy it from you. But I never got a price. And now
some people are too rich, you know. Some people are just too rich to be bothered. I mean, you could ask Mr. B about that. I asked why half of his stable was.
And I said, Kicker, can I please borrow $5 in soul? That man sent me one soul one day, and I said, man, that's a good guy. And he said, don't even worry about paying me back. What a solid dude.
Wow. So you took it to Soul Casino or whatever that new thing is to run it up. Going back to just even Aristotle and that purchase in general, I had a big decision to make with just a few of the girls I took out of the barn between Aristotle and Paul Bunyan. And Aristotle is about 2/3 the price, I think. Both of them on the reports, on the stats, everything look exactly the same. Aristotle, I think, is an exact half less boost, but I'll definitely be hitting both of these up, and I think they're great RDF pieces, especially if you can have firm that is higher than these. It makes even better to keep your unique blood.
Yeah, I liked it, especially if you're stuck with an Astrophilia. Hitting a unique sire is probably the way to go at that point. So that gives, like you said, multiple options later on.
Yeah, I mean, you're really missing on maybe 2-3 pieces. DeBiscuit's good. Wasatch, I think, is the best of those. And then I forget the other Colts, but they're definitely some good 22s. Obviously, Jupiter's a 22 too. It seems like RTF is very similar. And like for all the new people listening, when we say 22, it basically just is the bloodline picture that we showed. And if rarity equals 1 on the father, you can know that you probably have siblings out there. So it's a good thing to think about as you breed and as you start to think about bloodlines down the road.
Is Paul Bunyan one of those horses that I should have on my list at RDF?
I think so. It was a really tough decision to like pay $15K for him when you could pay like $16K
$4K
for Ace King. Yeah, well, I mean,
too. I already hit Ace King, so like I'm not like I thought about going back this month again just because he dropped the price on it. I didn't think he was gonna drop it. So that like it fucking rattled everything up again. So like I'm trying to convince. I'm not trying to convince, but like there's a world where I kind of want to go back to Ace King and just knock that out again, not have to worry about it.
I think it all comes down to your goals. Like if you want a strong racer out of the gate, I think hitting one of the 101s, if you were in the S- or A+ is just always going to be the way to go. A lot of people say you're going to have the most value. If you're really looking at like a 12, 18 month approach where you're going to try to bang out one of these unicorns that has unique blood that, you know, you may get stud value equivalent to what these S- are getting now, and maybe even more hypothetically, you know, it just all comes down to your goals, either short-term, long-term, all those different things.
This is where I ended up season 1. So it took our S- and went to Ace King. We got a Colt, cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a sick racer. I graded it today.
I was going to ask someone in the Discord for a report.
Yeah, let me open because I haven't even opened.
But now, like the dilemma is, like I was going to Zeus before Ace King went in cheap. And like cheap, 300, 350 cheap, like cheap. Zeus was my first target with her. And then Ace King ended up being like slightly better, but just like better overall. But like Zeus is like a close second to it.
Yeah, you really can't go wrong with any of them.
And Zeus is also in a value too. Like they're both in a value. Like I mean, Ace King was clear value last month, and now I think it's even more of a value. And that's just not me. Like no one's patting my pockets to pimp these horses. Like I got one filly to manage.
Pimp my horses. That's the next great MTV show.
Anyone wants to pay some dollars, dudes? I got a segment for you. Pimp your horses.
I need to hire that owner of Sunday Silence because I am realizing like maybe you should advertise your studs pretty incessantly in general.
Pat my pocket, and I'll do an absolute horsepower stream, and we'll showcase all the stallions. You can talk all you want. You get the whole stream to yourself. And at that point, I thought it was a shoo-in, but
it's great because one of Joanna's side projects is with a horse stable. So I told her as she builds the website for them, just take all of our colors and just make our site while you do it. So we're going to make a little Tombstone Stables site just to highlight and do whatever for.
I feel like at a certain point we might get there. I mean, the other game had some like people, they did like reports and stuff and write-ups and track polls and stuff, but like all that shit.
Stables is doing a great job with that. Stables has got like their Twitter bot running, showing you like when they're winning, showing you races. Like I think like especially them, Big Brain, some of the different clicks, it would especially be better for those.
All right,
Grimwald, yeah. So Grimwald's fold, yeah. I had you at like a 89.3 using Stints' worksheet, which is basically averaging everything, I guess. How would you describe it, Stints? It's pretty much a median outcome of all the stats together.
Yeah, it's not a power ranking. Although I did love that she's the one was behind Goat's Head Soup as RTF folds were ranked, but. Really what it's trying to do is say, what are your two parents, and assigns a numerical value to each stack grade and preferences as a whole. So if you had an A- and an S and it made an S-, we're always skeptical of that, the people that are streaming. And if you had an A+ and an S and it made an S, we would think, again, people on stream, opinion, we would think the A+ is a better asset. So the tool I put together says, let's take the raw stats of the A+, let's take the stats of the sire versus the stats of the A- and the stats of the sire. And then that would show out that it would be nearly impossible for the A- to have a better expected outcome. Now, that does not mean it can't be better, but what I'm trying to do is sort of rank what expected outcomes would be.
Yeah, and I think it's just a great baseline tool, like just to give you an idea, and it kind of correlates with kind of like a lot of our group philosophy, which is, you take an A+ to an S, it's going to be slightly worse than you take an S- to an S. Obviously, boost being equal, all things being equal, and then taking an S to an S is probably going to be better than an S- with an S. So it's a simple way of kind of, and why would you guys say that is that the difference of the A+? Do you think it's because of the variance in stats? You're going to get more A+ stats than S- stats and stuff like that?
No, I just think the most likely outcome was always the average outcome. And that it's, if you ran 100 breeds, would 70 of them be essentially an average of the preferences and the raw stack grades? Probably. And yeah, you'll have some outperformers to the upside and you'll have some outperformers to the downside. So I guess I'm willing to say math is math, and I'm going to bet on that the outcome is actually average. So like the other pieces to consider there then is, if we want to keep it as an RTF example, we bred Goat, which was probably the best marathoner at RTF, with Jupiter, which is a mid-distance horse, asset RTF. Mr. B took She's the One, which is the best sprinter at RTF, and Depoison, which was maybe second best marathoner. So the combinations are S with an S, S with an S, S. Basically, they were the same on paper. And his foal was an S+, and mine was an S. So when we're talking about this worksheet, yeah, the global grade is an S+, and that would likely mean the outcome was maybe better than averaging happening. But my expectations for those two foals are roughly the same. And then you can figure out, well, is it a different distance preference? I am skeptical that the distance preferences we saw in Gen 0 hold, just because all of the raw stack grades were so similar. Like all RTFs profiled the same. They had start, they had stamina, they didn't have speed. So if they all have the same profile, how is one good at 4 furlongs and one is great at 12 furlongs? That's to me where, when you get some variance in breeding, then you actually finally have distance preference.
I was going through trying to look at outliers, right? So like I have a B+ outlier, probably best in class at RTF, that won like $500, and I was trying to figure out what made this so special at 12 furlongs. And it didn't even roll up in stamina. It rolled up in finish and heart. And so I really thought that was interesting. But just going through, I think, and trying to look at the different outliers and maybe seeing the stats, because I didn't really breed a lot towards DP. I bred more stats correlation, which I was even showing Mr. B a chart with the B plus that we're talking about with Mercury, and how to me it just made the most sense because my previous breed is just a straight line of stats A with Balloon Arch. And with Mercury, it looks like I'll basically get a really far outlier in finish and heart, and still maybe still be an A, but I'll just be so far outlier, pretty much almost guaranteed, but then have like a 75th percentile to hit an S on finish, I think it was. So it was like, is it worth to, spend that $200 because this horse could just be a total outlier like Tadita was, or, just go in-house and flatten out all the stats? It's just like such a tough decision, especially when you start talking about, the money you already have invested, all these different scenarios. And then I guess it does come down to goals.
But from my perspective, and we'll soon let Mr. B go scorched earth on the breeding bet, is yes, you're talking about saving on a stud fee, and you're talking $50 versus $250 or whatever it was, and that is $200 more. That is 5 times as much as $50. Yeah. I can do that math as well. But when you talk about your Gen Zero filly asset, when each time you breed, you are using 1/23 of that filly. So was the $50 breed, was the $200 savings justified in the context of how valuable your filly otherwise was? That's what people need to be considering.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I've held off on my bottom two, and that's exactly why I'm highly leaning to go Mercury, because when I look at last month, even paying $50, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a solid A. There's nothing going to be special about Tadita's foal in my mind, other than you can talk about there could be a possibility that going super slow will make the next breeds as good a breeds as Gen Zero. That is like maybe up for debate. I don't know.
I think it's fine, and we've talked about it on other streams. The slow route is the route that could work. The fast route is the route that could not work. But the fast route is the route that's the most marketable. So I would rather just have you take the slow route, and if it works, I'll buy it from you if I can. If I can't, I'll say well played.
That's your strategy. You're just gonna let everyone else do the work. I like that.
Yeah, but he's testing some inbreeding. He's doing some work for other people too. He's a giver. Look at the guy. He's just giving his heart out here on this stream.
I'll tell you this. Stens has never given me one soul. I'll tell you that.
Wow.
Stens has never given
Unbelievable.
Me one soul.
Do I have to flash the DMs? Do I have to flash the DM on the screen of me trying to sell you a cheap horse?
Please don't share DMs publicly in public forums. I find that so disgusting, by the way. When people do that, that's just horrible behavior. I think it should be called out, frowned upon, and ridiculed endlessly, to be honest, if that were to happen.
Well, Stens would never do that, though.
You know what's crazy? And I think I was onto something is 6.5 full.
I love this foal for my stable and what I want to do.
Yeah,
I mean,
the stable that you
I paid a little more than I wanted to, but even once I got the breeding report and everything with Doc and Mundo and these different things, I think that these are not good starter pieces for people coming into the game. They're definitely pieces that if you've already got your stable going, if you've already got a plan, you got your high preference, your high boost horses, that's fine. But just with Doc, I'm realizing that I need more soft, and even having right turf firm doesn't really make a lot of sense for me. I almost need more right turf soft stuff. And I've another reason I haven't bred those two pieces is because I'm highly considering selling them and just getting either soft stuff or just building more stuff at the top and not wasting my time. Because a lot of the thing I'm thinking about is how many pieces do I really want? Like, do I really want to be like Mr. B over here and trying to figure out how I'm going to race 100 horses,
Yeah, it's a good point. Sowers is always agonizing and analyzing every breed 50 ways to Sunday, and I'm just
someone has to.
I don't have time for that. I'm just smash, smash. And even then, this week is just wipes me out. It's just too much stuff. My wife's you're on the phone, you're doing this, what's going on? I'm it's breeding week. I'm
that's all you say? It's breeding week.
Well, that's in the context of the horse.
Yeah, did she know it's not with another woman?
I think she knows at this point.
Yeah, I'm
But yeah,
old.
I liked this foal, and I liked the price it was at because it seemed like decent value. And then my man's Mike came over and said, "I'll take that. Give me that. You don't need that." But then you went out and bought the mother.
Well, now I'm like, well, I don't even really care about this foal anymore because I got the mother, and I don't know, but this piece could be okay. Like, you know,
I mean, it's
when
fine.
I do
It's
get
something crazy, but like, it could probably be a solid runner. Like, if Mundo is what everyone think it's gonna be, like, I didn't see any Mundo breeds in Beta 2. I think it was. I didn't look at any of that stuff. Like, I didn't
it was
look
funny.
at
Ghost was ridiculing me.
were.
Yeah, Ghost was kind of ridiculing me for going Jupiter over Mundo with one of my girls on the first breed, and then I show him the breed. He's like, "Yeah, man, you could have an S," and I was like, "But I have an S minus that is really high in speed and could be even higher in stamina. So if restricted racing, all of this stuff stays, like for the meta, it would make more sense." And I don't necessarily know that just jumping straight into an S is always great for your A+ on the racetrack. Like, do you want to be the bottom of the S's, or would you rather be closer to the top of the S minuses? Like, and that's really why we're breeding blind, because no one knows those answers of which one's gonna be better on the.
Is there I think there is, but is there? I saw a breakdown of like the foals per letter.
Yeah, the population.
But do we have a population for RTF, RT? You know. Like,
and it's so low at the top across all the boards. You're only gonna have 15 to 20 horses
or
max.
Is that like private knowledge?
No, it's public. It's
you send me
publicly.
A screenshot so I can pull it up.
Yeah.
Or send me something. Yeah, because like that's one thing I want to look at too. It's like.
I think that's really important for everyone because, you know, people are going to bitch about, oh, I can't find a race. I can't find a race. Well, if you bred where there's like 3 or 4 people or 3 or 4 horses in your grade total, you're probably not going to find a race, period. You know, like it would be pretty unreasonable to even ask to have a schedule that could correlate with you.
Wait, are you trying to get rid of bees, Sours? Is that what I'm
No. Honestly,
there's only 4 bees. You shouldn't have a bee race on the schedule.
I mean, you know,
Sours, come on.
I'm not really of the opinion for anything. I just really like showing people like, here's what we did the first population. So I hope it helps you with breeding this time, because even, you know, I really thought the A colts, especially the very, very top colts, like some of the ones I have, would at least get 5-10 breeds. And so far I've been kind of right that they've gotten like 4 to 6, but it's definitely gone down this season compared to last. And I expect that trend to continue to where eventually no one will be hitting those, you know?
Yeah. And a quick comment on that, or at least as quick as I can while he's pulling this up, is I think we're seeing a rotation. So a lot of people want to hate on the min price breeding for great or good assets, but it is kind of an instant gratification thing of, they're getting 35 or they're getting 25 or whatever it is. But then the next season, those colts aren't getting hit very much. And when you have big stables like us that can actually basically influence those outcomes, like we bred with Shawnee Bear, I think 14 times last season, and we don't need to take our 14 to Shawnee Bear this season. So Shawnee Bear's probably not going to sell out. And I think we've seen the same thing where Blood Moon is another one we use out of Eddie's stable. Both Eddie, love Eddie, Pocono Racing. We use that 10 plus times this month, but we don't need to go back to it next month. So are these people pricing potentially too low and ruining it for everybody else? I don't think they're ruining it for everybody else.
Hold on,
I think they are pricing it too low, but I'm not going to go back to
me, Stens. All right, I know what that means. You're trying to talk over. Don't you do that to me, Stens. Before we get into the breeding rant, I want him to. Mike, can you run a breeder? Like, can you do the breed wizard stuff with the with Joey Porter Jr. here?
What is he? Oh, right. I don't. It depends if we've gotten it done.
It's what? And please put some respect on her. Thank you.
What is her? You want a breeding report, or you want to see what like?
No, like how can you run like whatever you did? Like I bred it with Serenity now. Like, can you tell me like what that's gonna be?
Stens, have you done this one? Is this one in the database?
Stens probably had.
Did you breed this season? Did you breed last season or just this week?
This season. So I have to wait till Monday?
We won't have it yet. Yeah, we won't
have it. So Monday stream we'll do
It'll be an ass. It'll be an ass for sure.
100%.
A ton of money on it.
Yeah. And I guess that's the discrepancy because Serenity now is $50. And I guess some people didn't like that too much.
I almost, man, even some of these tickets I'm seeing on the marketplace, I'm like, wow, I could just hit Serenity now for $50 and possibly make a nice LTF. Like,
I was going
man.
thinking pretty before I got verbally abused by the two people on stream. Well, the one person on stream, and then Mr. B was just like, "Yeah, tell him, Stan. You fucking tell him, buddy." Just sitting there egging him on because he wanted my $50. So here we are now.
Yeah, I had a piece that was an S minus 24 that I really wanted to hold on to just because I knew how free breeding was going to be. So it was a very strategic idea, but I don't know. It's tough to compete in LTS, and I think another thing is you talk about race liquidity, and obviously right dirt soft, same type of issue. You're gonna have a lot of race liquidity issues early on, but at the top at least. I think it actually made more Colts than Phillies again too.
Let's see.
Another thing I was thinking, when we actually stack the stats, Stins, and we do the math, does that change if you alternate stat ceilings?
Say that again. I was looking at PJJ's comment.
So if we were gonna actually we're doing the grading in the system or whatever, is the grade gonna come out slightly higher if we alternate ceiling stats, or is it gonna be higher if we stack ceiling stats, or if the math is all the same, the math is just the same?
I think the math would show out to be the same. Now, if you asked Wolof, who I would defer to on what breeding outcomes, what makes you go up in global grade? Is it making everything across the board higher? Or is it making one stat so high and everything else be reasonably high that pushes you up a notch? I don't know the answer to that, and I don't have a very strong opinion on it. I am very much in the Mr. B camp of when we take a dozen fillies to something, we take a dozen fillies to something. We don't say, I'm going to breed this one this way, this one this way. We split RTF this time just because Walter White, that would have broke us to breed Walter White 18 times. So I think we did 7, but most times we're gonna use one sire and we're gonna be done with it.
So I had a question for you about that. Are you doing it X number of times because you're trying to get an RTF out of that, and you figure on volume you'll just kind of get lucky on one of them?
Yeah, to replace it. Is that what you're asking? Basically?
No, I'm saying he's not. You do it very strategic, and you're taking a shot. Stens is basically saying, let me take 7 or 10 shots because he's trying to get the outlier. So I'm just wondering if he's trying to get a 1F out of those breeds, and if he does it once, the odds are it's going to be basically a 0 or a 0.5. But if you do it 7 times, there's a good chance you're going to get an F1 out of one of those breeds.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking, why you do it so many times.
Well, you probably give me too much credit then. So the 7 number is we have 7 A+ RTF fillies or higher that have 2.0 or higher firm. So the math would suggest that I should get a half-star firm or better basically on all of those. And I misspoke there a little bit. GOAT is the S. It's only 1-star firm. And because we had the little visual previewer on Monday morning, I know that came out as RTS, but RTS 0 on soft. And that's as good of outcome as you could want.
And it was a filly too, or no?
No, it's a colt. But I think a colt for us is more useful in that sense, especially with it being 2 of the top S's at a distance profile that we want. So
you don't really care. I'm just wondering if you did 7 because you're trying to get one that might shoot to even an F1 as opposed to an S0 or an F0. And if you have enough volume, let's say if you did the breeding report, it's going to show anywhere between a half soft and 1 or even 1.5 firm. The more you do it, the more likely you're going to get one that's going to be an outlier towards the firm. And that's kind of what I was asking in terms of your volume approach. Or am I overthinking it and you're just well, I have 7 A+ fillies, I'm just going to run them all against.
We have a few more than that. But no, you're probably overthinking it a little bit. I guess if I was saying I had a rooting interest for something, you're saying I'm rooting for the condition preference to just hard swing to firm. and volume is going to give you one of those. I understand the argument.
Right.
That's not what I'm rooting for. I know I had the ass that I probably wanted. In full disclosure, I bred 6 times with Walter White before we knew that you could see what the foals, gender, and preferences were going to be and global grade was going to be. So it didn't change my decision. And the 7th breed was today. I just bought that ticket from Bay Colony or whatever and bred it that way as well. What I guess I'm hoping for is fillies, because Walter White's 9924, it seemed to prefer 10 furlongs, maybe more than even a Mundo did. I know that I probably best compete at the 8+ furlong piece of RTF. I'll let you have the low end. We'll try for the top end. So what I want is fillies that I can then breed into Jupiter, that I can then breed into Mercury, that I can then breed into She's the One or Better Than Most, whoever's going to cut me the biggest deal on that 4th breed. So it's bringing in another one-of-one bloodline that prefers a longer distance to RTF is what I'm doing.
Okay.
I think that's another thing. It kind of ties into the whole, what I've been thinking about is trying to bring that bloodline into your stable and have almost a better piece than they have, to where you can either now take control of that bloodline or just having it in-house. It seems like investing, especially now, outside your barn to try to get the bloodlines that you want, where you can breed in-house cheaper for longer, is definitely one of those opportunity cost assessments for people, especially when you have 5-10 assets rather than just one.
Keep in mind, I don't think it's a ton of people, but there are people that are very displeased with how the breeding meta is playing out. So I guess I'm giving myself the best options to say, let me get everything externally I could ever need to do done. And then if the team's going to make changes, whether that's changing to a dynamic minimum stud feed price, or changing the minimum to that if you breed in-house, it's $50, not $10, or lowering the cover count from 35 to 15. I'm basically saying I want to be safe for whatever changes come. And they haven't really spoken to whether changes are coming. I think everybody thinks the cover count could come down, but it eventually is probably right sized at 35. So do you bother to pull it down now to push it back up later? I don't know. I just want to be prepared.
Yeah, I think it's important to think about all those considerations, which is why alternating or doing things a little different and not just doing the same thing each season is important. But also, I just think that they should really just give it 6 months. I feel like, and you could make the argument that if you wait that long and there is a mistake, that, man, maybe we've screwed up. But I just think it's way too early, because even myself, things I did last season, I didn't do this season. And next season, I'm going to do differently too. So it definitely moves around, it shakes. But I wouldn't necessarily consider an A+ with unique blood like this asset that you really have to protect long term, because honestly, they're going to be pretty transient. I mean, they're always going to be important somewhat, but it seems temporary almost. So to try to think like that we're making some huge mistake because everyone's hitting these bloodlines, I don't necessarily agree with that. And I think also maybe after 4 or 5 breeding periods, could make a change, but I think you do need more data on human behavior before you make a hasty decision. I think they know that too. I don't know.
Well, they have to love that they're not giving out. The team's not giving anything out. They have to love that there are cheap foals being created. And sure, owners are still charging pretty good prices for a lot of that stuff. In some cases, I think excessive prices. Mm-hmm. But if you're creating foals cheaper, one that relieves the burden that owners who carry their assets a year longer than
forced to sell
have to carry their assets. So you're making it easier on your existing base. You're making it easier on newcomers, because in theory, there's a cheaper entry point for them by just buying foals that were produced for cheap. Everybody's a winner in that context. There are very few losers that may lose big in this, but for the most part, everybody's better off for what we're seeing so far. Is it the best plan forever? I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't quite. First of all, how many horses were bred 35 times last season? What, like 4 horses?
Yeah.
So,
but that's their argument in a way, almost too.
So-
It's like that you don't need this many or whatever.
But well, the point is, if there's only 4, what do you need to worry about changing the limits? It's not
Well,
like
because it's not theirs.
What?
It's not their stud. That's why. If it was theirs, they might not be making that argument.
But for the sake of the game, it's one thing if there were, 20 horses that did 70% of the breeds, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
So I don't, and if you only have 4 horses that hit that limit, and honestly, one of them was mine, and I probably bred internally like 10 or 15
Half of
times
it,
out of that.
yeah.
So that doesn't even count.
Mhm.
Like, I just don't see what the big deal is. And if it's getting new players or, smaller stables or people with lower grade horses able to kind of get in the game cheaper, or at least upgrade the horses cheaper, I just don't see what the problem is. If people think that I'm pricing, or the people that have stuff priced too low, that's their opinion, and that's fine. I'm the one who's making the decision. So I'm the one who's hurting myself if that's the case. I don't really need other people looking out for me. So if it's hurting the game, I get it. But we're not talking about a lot of horses that are hitting these limits. So I don't see how it's hurting the game. If anything, I think it's helping the game.
I think, yeah. The bottom line is that the bottom line will probably be higher this season, almost definitely. I can't see it being less breeding fees than last month. And so when your bottom line just increased, and you just increase your overall revenue from the marketplace of breeding, it's going to be really hard to change from a CEO or a business standpoint in general. You're probably going to look at it and say, it's working pretty well,
I'll tell you this.
A wise man once said, adapt or die. And
that is true. I'll tell you this, like, from the argument, y'all are bigger stables, so like it means more. But us having that one filly, like, again, I was stoked when I saw Ace King in for the price that it was in.
Yeah, 100%.
For me, that was fucking huge. But like, I understand that probably a little bit more than most, because the other game at a certain point, the bloodlines actually fucking mattered, and they were valuable.
And another reason why you need, I'm sorry.
Good.
I was going to say, that brings me to the other point is that's the reason you need 6 months, because like, even if you look at the S+0s, it's like, I didn't go to them the first 2 months. I'm going to go there eventually. So if you change the rules and you didn't let the full wave take place, then how can you make a judgment on like kind of how anything should work? That's how the blood, like what you were talking about, has to work kind of.
Good point. Yeah. Like you talk about your horse, Doc, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's waiting for Night Saturn. Now, all of a sudden, you're like, well, you can only do 15 breeds. It's going to be like, what the hell? You basically have the market at the top of the RDS for the next few periods. And I'm like waiting for Night. I mean, look, we were talking the other day. I like DM'd them, like, when are you retiring this horse?
Oh, I've asked them too. I mean, I would ladder through them too. I think also I was having the same chat with 9924 guys, because I was telling them, like, in a way, people can go 1-on-1, 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 but eventually they run out of avenues, and that's when their value is going to spike. BB is actually so sharp because he realizes that Night Saturn isn't that important to people right now. People won't pay for unique blood right now if it's too expensive, because they get 1-on-1s for cheap. But in season 7, season 8, 9, people are actually going to be out of options, and they're going to have to go to Duck. They're going to have to go to Primetime. They're going to have to go to S+, or they're going to have to go to Night Saturn. And so your value goes up then. And that's why even Ace King, like, he might not have bred as much this month, next month, and the next month, there's always going to be a growing just movement of some months it's going to be good, some months it's going to be bad, I feel like.
The interesting person to talk to, and I actually have to DM him, is Wolof, who, and Hazy Hills and Lollies. He's got some very interesting pieces in their barn, and they're not pricing them to
get hit at all, really.
Not at all. They're almost like, okay, we know what we have, and we'll just wait.
Yeah.
We'll see how it plays out. That's obviously the opposite strategy of mine, but I don't have the same pieces. But it's definitely interesting looking at what they have, because they don't have too many of these kind of, okay, this is a 1-on-1 and there's 10 of these that are very similar. He has, Trey Leches. They had that, I think they took that one off. Z Kittles.
Yeah, I know you
You know,
spoke
he just
Spanish.
even his pricing on Durban Poison is such that he's not looking for breeds right now. Figuring, I guess, either one, he thinks the prices are so cheap he just is like refuses to play that game, or two, he's waiting, thinking, okay, well, eventually they're going to come to me, and I'll just wait.
Yeah, I mean, we have 3 LTSSs, one from each of the possible sires, and 2 of them have not been used at all by anybody, including us, and the third one has been used, but by us. We have not sold a single external cover. We have the second rarest 9924 LTS, and we have like the second rarest 9923, which is Scuba LTS. Hasn't been used, and I would say we're okay with that. So I don't know if that's kind of the Wolof answer on behalf of Wolof is like it's gonna come around eventually, and if it doesn't, like I get the 1-on-1s are the same, but I think we're seeing incremental rarity matters. So if you have a 1-on-1 with rank 30 versus a 1-on-1 with a rank 90, the rank 31 revealed maybe one more S plus than the other ones did. So if you have that, there's no point in competing on price. Now, there's a particular pain point for a lot of people of a subset of horses that are 4 horses divided by rarity by 4 total rarity, meaning they are exactly the same horse. Mm-hmm. And people are mad that one is priced at the minimum, but how is their horse differentiated from anybody else that has the same or similar assets? It's just not. So you just play the hand you're dealt and adapt. And how we've adapted really from the start, we anticipated this pricing meta as well, is to buy your own fillies that you can use yourself. And I get, oh, how rich, that's easy for you guys to do. Not everybody else can do it. But it's the same common theme of these prices help everybody. And the only true victims are the people that can afford to be the victims. Like everybody else is benefiting. So to me, it's not a concern at all.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing about Serenity now is, and I think that's what you're talking about, is it's, I don't want to go into the whole story of LTS, but LTS is just, so you can talk about, in theory, about pricing, but LTS is just a different animal based on the large skew towards the colts versus fillies, particularly at the top. And so it's a weird archetype where the top of the archetype is almost all like 99-24, 99-25, mostly colts. And there just aren't a lot of fillies. So you just have a dynamic where you have very similar colts at the top. And
bring up the population, Doughboy. I think like looking at the Gen 1 LTS, like even what Mr. B is talking about is something I'll try to look at. And I'll say, all right, well, we had 50 A plus. Well, really, we'll just look at the fillies because that's all that's going to matter. But we had 26 A plus fillies in LTS. We had 17 A fillies. So let's just say this trend continues for 6 months. Well, now you're going to have, 120 basically in each sector that are going to look to move up. And that's, the first 6 months. As you start getting further and further, the population is going to rise enough to where it will start even paying the colts that you guys are talking about that might have had zero action. So in some cases, these are just like really long-term. It's basically the only opportunity cost, I guess, is time, where you realize that they will probably make money and get all these customers coming along eventually. I think RDS and LTS are the 2 that I saw like that when I first came in the game, that I thought, oh, I need to be in these sectors. And then once I got in LTS, I was like, well, it is a long-term project just to even get, people racing me. And it's the same with Doc. It's one of the reasons why I've priced him pretty competitively. I really believe that there is something to having liquidity for the race horses you're producing. So, for instance, both of my S girls are going to go to Doc quite a bit. And so why wouldn't I want more horses in that archetype so that I can actually make some money or get races going instead of sitting for 2-3 days whining in Discord that, my races aren't feeling.
Lamb, I don't mean to drastically shift topics here, but Lamb brings up, and I think that's a other game name that I even recognize, even if we haven't really spoke. brings up a good point, and we've probably talked about it before, but it's good to bring up every time, is where do you think prices are going from here?
Yeah.
And right now, if you bought a mare that Sage hasn't already bred and listed on the marketplace as a brood mare, you can breed it for 2 more days, 3 more days, or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you have 2 horses. So we are in a weird spot right now, but as soon as Monday rolls around, people are going to get their next generation of foals. The first crop of foals will be basically 1 month away from racing. These ones we'll get now will be 2 months away from racing. So you'll have kind of double the supply of foals, but there is a differentiation between when you can use those assets. I think the prices will kind of merge. There won't be that big of a difference. And if that's the case, you would probably want to try to target a foal from this first crop that already exists. So if people have to drop their prices to compete with the new foals, maybe that's when you strike. The other dynamic I haven't heard anybody talk about, and we're still really a month from this playing out, is we're going to breed this next season at the end of the month, as we have so far for this will be the 3rd season of doing it. Mm-hmm. But then basically the day after that ends, we're going to breed again. So you got big stables that have 40 fillies to cover that have to pay cover fees on 40 fillies 2 weeks in a row. And that's when I think prices are actually going to potentially come down in a meaningful fashion on foals. It probably won't be racing eligible foals because the period of time I'm talking about is the end of August. And some horses will be a day or 2 away from racing. Those ones probably won't be a deal, but the second crop that drops on Monday might be cheap at the end of next month.
I got a question for you guys about that. What do you think? I mean, Sowers is the one I believe who suggested it in the Discord to Ian to even push it to the end. And I think it's better this way. I don't know why you'd want to have it the first week, especially if we're having like the premier races for 3-year-olds. You're going to have a dynamic where you're going to have to decide whether to retire your horse after its 2-year-old season.
Especially with dynamic aging, it's even crazier to think about that.
So like I don't quite get it. And
I never got it either. And that was my whole point to begin with. The only thing that I do get is that you get the stimmies early, and coordinating stimmies with breeding, I think, is important, which is why one of the amendments that I made was change the staking to release right before the thing, which obviously is tough because it's attached to a whole season of racing. But I think that going back to even the back-to-back breeding, it forces even me to think about like, all right, I'll probably just go in-house as much as possible for both of those, leave myself assets to where I can scoop up deals if I see them or whatever. I think that the breeding market will be competitive, especially, I do think that the first generation of foals, especially colts, I feel like colts are really undervalued right now. And I've working with new people, I've been trying to educate them on like what could be a good racing colt and what will just be shit. And so I've kind of identified a few that I was like, if it was this price 3 days before racing, I would buy it. But right now, I think it's better to wait, especially if you don't have a horse and stuff like that. But I do think that some of these like S- colts, if it was 3 days before racing, I think they would be more expensive than they are now, or they would be bought.
Yeah, well, I would agree with that. So going back to the thing, I mean, at the risk of getting a timeout for being on a stream, as real as it gets is in real life.
Right now,
the horses retire at the end of the 3-year-old year. Imagine having the top stud and then retiring before the Kentucky Derby, and that's the incentive you're going to create. And especially with the aging, I don't understand. I don't understand the rationale to have the retirement at the start.
Maybe Sten's can enlighten us, because I've always been of the thing, you run the Derby, you retire and breed and get paid for doing well. Like, to me, that's as real as it gets, but I don't know.
I thought the logic was like the horse still had to mature. So when you start at the first part of the season, you're basically getting a year maturity without turning the calendar. But it's another case of we cared about as real as it gets in some cases and not in other cases. this would seem to be a logical
That's
choice.
the
where you could
reasoning.
maybe-
Yeah, but
it is the
reasoning that I've heard from them. It is that so that the gestation period is the actual term they've used. But I think like at the end of the day, it's only important to us now. Once we get 6-7 seasons in, I don't know that necessarily it'll be as important to us as that colt getting stud value right away. We can probably race him, retire him at his age 4 early on, and we won't be bothered by it like we are now. I don't think it'll be as important thing.
My prediction is they will end up going, if they switch to the first week, they'll go back to the end because I think it's better that way.
Oh, hot take from Mr. B.
I think Sowers,
I love it.
I think Sowers nailed it. It was a great suggestion. It's worked out great so far. And I don't see the reason to move it to the beginning of the season. But look, it's not my damn game. So, you know, they can do what they want.
I back you up, sir. I back you up all the way.
Time out. I'm just kidding.
You know, it's so bright
I saw
out
the
here.
analogy there. I like the analogy. What I would like more is if you hopped up on stream and talked about your offer.
Listen, last pick in the snake is nice. I prefer the 10, 11, 12.
No way. You guys play
depends
fantasy football? Invite me
depends
to
on the
your
state.
league. I'll take Justin Jefferson
I don't
or Jamar Chase, and you guys can take the snake pick all day. Let's.
You
we're
know where
definitely
both
having
those-
a fantasy football
I'm a
draft.
big fan of putting all my eggs in one basket, especially with
You know where both those wide receivers went to college?
Yeah, I mean, they went to a place where
Louisiana State University.
It's a good state, good university.
So, yeah.
I didn't mean to derail us. I was trying to bait GVG to come on.
I was trying to think.
He has the link. If he wants to come up and try, you can pimp his deal too. You can pimp his stuff.
I love how this is supposed to be a beginner's chat, but we've really talked about really
in-depth
and macro things.
You're all
I
expert level.
You know, you talk about GVG. I got a question because to me, Wolof was always the GOAT, but now you got GVG as like a different kind of GOAT. So Wolof is the GOAT of like racing and HRM, but now you've got GVG just taking things to like a whole nother level. I don't even know who to call the GOAT anymore.
Have you seen the show Billions?
I have seen show Billions. Yeah.
The show Billions, that's who GVG is. You know, he's the CEO of the huge hedge fund who just comes in and says, I make the rules, okay? Legislation, government, all of these things don't matter. And he's a little bit nicer than that.
I was going to say GVG seems like a much nicer person.
Yeah, he's actually if that person was a genuinely nice person and doing deals, you know, to help others and inspire, you know, his ideas. That's who GVG is. At least if
we're going to be honest, I think we're putting GVG on a bit of a pedestal here because the top spender in breeding for the first 2 seasons collectively is going to be none other than yours, absolute horsepower. Like, come on, GVG, pay it forward, breed with other people's stuff.
Don't you have double or
pay it forward for once.
You literally have 41 mares, bro. Like, sit down.
It's more than that. No, it's a disgusting problem. It's a disgusting problem.
It really is.
You're gonna love it.
The fact,
Okay, so on a day-to-day stint, when we're in race season, how long is it taking you? Do you have it kind of set up in hour slots or just kind of here and there, or how long would you say screen time you're having to do to manage that? And then I'll ask Mr. B the same question.
Before you answer that,
I would. Okay.
Hold on. Considering that you have a full-time job, do you have write-ups at your job, or are you the boss? You're not the boss, right? You have a guy above you.
Well, the chief accounting officer is my boss, so I would say I'm in
you just got to make sure he's
pretty
not
reasonable position.
I imagine to touch on Sowers, then I imagine you're going to be doing a lot of this on your office hours. So just make sure you lock the door behind you. You know.
I assume that was in the screen time estimation assumption.
Not. Home, walking the dogs. You know what I mean? Like
we've talked about it before. Like Bye Birdie is maybe the go to farming in this case, and while maybe you don't race as many horses that way, like that is a very time-consuming thing because it has to be immediate. You have to be there for it. When you talk about registering races and understanding a horse's distance preference, I can do 1 horse per day. Like that's one thing that the team got right is it's like setting your fantasy football lineup for the day or whatever, or doing a DraftKings lineup. Am I going to be better at it than someone that's got 3 horses? Probably not, because they're going to be able to spend way more time on their 3 horses than I'm going to. And I'm going to get some wrong, and I'm just probably going to stop racing some. And the hope is that that's where claimers come in, is like, if I realize I'm doing a disservice to a horse and not using it, I don't even want to bother trying to sell it. I would rather just throw it in a claimer, because hey, if someone claims it, great, and I could still probably win that race. Or maybe it was claimers is where it was supposed to race all along. And that's where the cost basis of these horses is going to get tricky eventually, is if we can make horses really cheap, it's a lot more expendable for us than it would be for someone else. So my guess is we'll race better quality in a lot of claimers, and that's something we'll have to solve for eventually.
Yeah, it's a good point Stens brings up, is that the way our stables are set up with so many fillies is that we are forced to sell. Otherwise, you're just going to have an unmanageable stable within a few seasons. So if the market is great, we're going to sell. If the market's crappy, we pretty much still have to sell.
Yeah, you're like Bitcoin miners in that sense. In a way, you have to pay for the electricity, kind of.
Well, it's possible things will change, and right now they don't have the administrative controls. Even if I wanted to hire someone to do it, I really couldn't. So you're probably going to get decent deals, and just because we can't keep everything, it's just there's just going to be too many horses now. Then either you sell it on the market or you stick it in a claimer, and if you win, great, and if someone claims it, that's fine too. So that's probably going to be something that has to happen. Now, Stens is probably more systematic than me in this, and I'm too cheap, so I'll end up saying, well, hell, if the market's not there, I'll just hold on to them, and I'll be managing 700 horses. But if you think I'm tired this breeding week, wait till January, and I'm sitting there just hitting breed. So
auto breeder option, put that in the suggestions.
I'm telling you, in that beta, for people that were around last July and August, it was just crazy. The site couldn't even, I had so many horses, the site wouldn't even load for me, and I was sitting there, and I tried to enter a race, and it would take like a minute to enter a race because I had so many horses, and I had.
Would you have 1,000 at one point or more?
At one point, the other person who amazes me, who has even more than me.
OAB.
Oh, I don't know how does that guy do it? He's unbelievable.
I talked to him a lot, and I even sent him a picture yesterday. Like, I'm the new one-eyed blind, with the patch. And
I thought you were wearing glasses because it was bright out. Now you're telling me you got a patch? Let's see it. Come on.
It is bright. I'm totally healed up. Actually, I mean, I have no problem.
Jeez. No, you should have had the fire hat and the patch on too.
You should see the other guy though. I'm
right here.
Fire. That guy's in the hospital, boys. It got crazy out here in Kentucky Oaks Friday. I'll tell you that. I don't even know how I'm sitting up straight.
All those high school kids, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, more ambulances were called that day than for the grown-ups. It was for sure.
Unbelievable.
What were the other things on the agenda? I guess the whole agenda was get GVG on stage, but the other parts of
why don't we talk about GVG's, even if he's not on stage? Why don't you talk about his latest offer, which is
that's why I asked him to come up, so we didn't have to. But I understand. I understand. I gotta find
a busy guy.
Well, it's almost done. I don't think we have any newer players in here because they're not asking questions, so that stinks.
Well, Chicago Stables was in here. I don't know.
Well, he only came in to say hi to me. So,
boo.
What do you want? Listen, man. He subscribed to my YouTube before I turned it into horse racing. He subscribed for the food. But yeah, that's where I got Grimwald from. Middleman by Ben's.
I actually knew that. I did know that. Yeah, because they were here early, and then
I'll Doughboy stop being a little sissy and just buy the horse already. What a great influence. But yeah, that was good.
I don't know the. I promise I don't know the very specifics of the GVG deal. I see Lacey's in chat. Hopefully she can put it in there. But the gist of it was no maximum fillies bought, as long as the fillies were bought before August 1st and you'd identified what colts you wanted to breed with. He'd cover the stud fee and the transaction fee, which is by far the most generous part of the offers. I mean, if you're breeding with his studs, it's a sacrifice for him because he's giving up a cover limit and stuff, but the paying the stud fee as well is 20%. Like that's actual real cash out of his pocket. So it's pretty legit. Lacey said it's pinned in beginner channel. So check it out there. Make sure you use the Google form. There's some other things tacked onto that. OAB's got a part of it. YSM's got a part of it.
250 USD.
Scrooges up here aren't.
I got another question. Is Lacey like ever in a bad mood, or is she always positive? She's just amazing.
Only when she buys inbred horses.
No, she didn't buy it. She performed the action. And I told her that the best person in the game is also doing the same thing. So
don't worry about it.
If Stins is doing it, if Stins is doing inbreeding, then maybe everyone should do inbreeding.
So she was copying Stins. Is that what it was?
Yes.
All I'll say is in beta V2 is when we'll call it like the notable occurrence happened. We bred two S's together. It was RDF to LDF because I just didn't want to dick around with RDF, and I don't still. Now GVG's conquered RDF, so I definitely don't want to play there. But it was two Scubas together. It ended up being the filly that ended up being Poseidon's SS Stamina filly. That came from us. And I bred it with Apollo, which is our LDFS. So two S's together, and it came out with SS speed, not SS minus, not S plus. It came out with SS speed, stayed as an S. And did the horse progress after that breed? I don't know, because like Mr. B, I had thousands of horses to manage in beta V2.
I bet now, if you knew now, you would love to get that data to know if it did progress. But also,
someone's probably got it. Someone's got it, I'm sure.
I've seen that in the breeding reports of these inbreeds, though. It does seem like the wick on the high side seems pretty high for almost all of the stats, not just some of the stats. And that's why I even piped in the chat today, like, I don't know that this is necessarily a bad thing. I've seen in the breeding reports, it seems like something you should try. And obviously, if I had the horse,
I don't know. I wouldn't advocate to try it. I think Soulmates has probably put it best in that. Yeah, maybe you have one outcome that doesn't suck.
Yeah,
but it's a 4-generation play. Like, so after 4 generations, then I get to play with my one fun stat and
this is
move up
what,
from there.
Like the inbreeding will matter. I think matters more when you get to. So for us, this is 0. This will be crop 1. Or not the crop 1, but like
Gen 0.
Breeding. Yeah.
Or the PFPs are there. Yeah.
There's inbreeding all the way back here, but all the way back here doesn't matter. This is what matters. The great grandparents. Like these two columns right here, the Raise a Native and Native Dancer columns, those are too far back to matter. This is essentially what ends up mattering IRL.
So we're actually one past that.
So when
the game.
Yeah. So when you look, this is the great grandparents right here. This column. If you look here at Conquistador Cielo, Mr. Prospector is the sire, and then if you jump up the gulch, his father is also Mr. Prospector.
Okay.
So it's on both sides. That's like, it's two generations back for inbreeding.
Yeah.
You're gonna do it 3 almost. So like this is where the inbreeding most likely occurs in the parents of the grandparents. If that makes sense. That's why I pulled the chart up so you can actually.
By the way, I'm so old. I was there when Cielo won the Met Mile and then won the Belmont like 6 days later.
Yeah, that was a good fucking horse. Mr. Prospect was great too. Like Stormbird was great. Secretariat, obviously. Gold Digger was like a top mare, producing mare. Obviously produced Mr. Prospector. Raising Native was great. Native Dancer is like huge. Like these are like the creme de la creme of stallions in bloodlines. Like this is where the shit was built. So like everything that's running.
Oh, that's where Doc Holliday is. I get it.
Doc Holliday's in here somewhere.
He's there.
But yeah, like
so is Apollo getting retired?
What happened?
Oh yeah. I saw someone ask who's going to be left to breed with Apollo and Polliner Fields. We have 14 fillies waiting to breed with Apollo. So if no one else does, so be it. But yes, after the Derby, maybe there's like a short, abbreviated stream where we reveal Apollo's stats and his SS minus finish potentially, or SS minus stamina, and get the breeding.
Oh, you just said finish. Wait, now you're on team finish possibilities? Is that what I'm hearing?
I listen to my elders. I respect my elders. I would never tell Mr. B he's ruining the game or killing off bees. Mr. B seems to think finish might actually have a bigger impact.
You know who else does?
Stamina.
The one-eyed guy also was the first guy to bring this up, and then I couldn't wait for Tadita's reveal. When I did, it was finish, not stamina, and I was like, what the hell? But that was for exactly 12. So maybe I almost feel like stamina is for 10 and finish is for 12, but that's just my intuition.
I think there's something to that. I certainly was not the person who came up with that. I like you said, you think it was OEB, and then Ghost brought it up. And I'm like, I looked at Serenity Now, and I was trying to figure out why he was a 12 furlong horse. And sure enough, Ajax Wolof's horse is a 10 furlong horse. I think he had SS minus stamina, but I don't think he was S plus in finish, whereas Serenity Now was S plus stamina, S plus finish, S plus heart. And then I had an A filly that was also dominant at 11 and 12 furlongs. And I looked, and sure enough, she was A plus in stamina and A plus in finish. So it's definitely possible that it's a combination of stamina and finish that makes you like a 12 furlong horse.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things, and I think that's really important. Oh, that's not him. I thought our guy was back.
No, it's just RBA.
Just me.
Well, he's probably got 10 minutes before the Golden Bachelor turns on, so if he needs to talk about anything, now's the time.
It's what is this stupid show we started last night? The one where they think they're going to have a bunch of sex and then they're not allowed. That one. That
Too Hot to Handle?
Yes, that one. Couldn't think of it.
That's the one that Joanna hasn't picked. She's picked 90 Day Fiance and something else, which I find hilariously bad.
Enough suburb talk.
It all is, but So I didn't catch the start of the stream, but what are we up to? What are we arguing about tonight?
There's no arguments. It's just stud fee discussion.
Well, you know, I mean,
trying to get newer players in, which I want to touch on.
What are we trying to solve tonight? Let me put that way. What are we trying to solve tonight?
People are trying to solve Balloon Arch 2xing ROI before they even get a quarter of their ROI back.
That's another thing. We were talking about stud fees. So what was your rationale for pricing Balloon Arch at the $50?
Yeah, why do you hate people with unique blood, RVA?
Yeah, why you like giving free things away, dummy?
Dude, I'm just a very charitable person. I'm not here to make money. I'm just here to make some good friends, have some digital horse sex. No, the rationale was really there's like a natural progression in grades that were already priced to where he wasn't going to get much at more than the 4K. He was still gotten some. He got 8 covers at 8,000 last month. So I knew that going a little bit lower, it just made more sense to say put it at man and hope to sell out to maximize that. So yeah, so I think overall he has 43 covers in 2 months. So
that's a great horse. I mean, if I had, ignoring my own internal stuff, if I had like I was saying, if I had a B plus, the key to Balloon Arch is really the preferences there. So if you wanted to keep
having the 9, like I extend, basically once you have them, try to keep them. If you don't have them, maybe you just go for the best stats. So yeah, there's a couple other out there. They're at A plus. One of them retired, one of them didn't, and they kind of both were priced same first season. They kind of just split covers. So I just decided that I would be the first mover to go down to the cheaper one. We'll see if people come back to it next month. He had awesome results last month, honestly, like keeping those max preferences. So it just depends on if people want to keep those up. He brought a lot of them up, but we'll see. We'll see if there's many repeaters. I think Fat Bastard and Lord Strange, set the tone with that last month with the Max Boost A+, and they had direct competition. They both sold out. They both are at like 20 something this month, so obviously less. But if I can get 20 more next month, I'd be delighted. So we'll see.
Would you say there's a direct correlation to being on Doughboy's stream and your breeding success, or would you say
Yeah,
that
$40, dude. Just like,
I got you. Free breed next month.
appreciate it. Hopefully my male horse can impregnate, or I can get my male horse impregnated.
I thought you had. I always think that your A- is a filly. Why? Is it because it's got like love in the name or something? So I think it's a filly.
Look, that was the first. That was the first like real horse that my dad ever had me a part of. Bought it as a 2-year-old and sold it for $250,000.
No, I think that. Yeah, I always forget. I do always truly think that your A- is a filly.
Yeah, I mean, once I get a peasant. Well, yeah, that's the other thing I want to touch on, because we were talking about GVG's deal. Is it's a great deal. The unfortunate thing is I think the prices of like the ticket price. I think the minimum is like $44,000.
Yeah,
for
I think
an unclaimed ticket, and then for just a shitty whatever, it's like $33,000, which is $400, $450.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
but his deal.
Go his status.
Oh my God! Why don't we let him solve this for us?
Starting to feel like a Joe Rogan episode up in here. Are we all supposed to start drinking and taking psychedelics?
Y'all are getting muted, and he has a stage. Maybe he's not.
You
there.
got two black eyes too? Is that why you're not showing your face also, GVG?
What's up, fellas?
What's going on,
hey man, it's chilling. How's everybody?
Yeah,
I've been lurking.
Oh, okay, lurking on YouTube. YouTube. Who watches Doughboy on YouTube?
Just audio. I was walking the dogs. We just got done like a nice little hike. So
I appreciate the support on both.
I didn't want to hop on earlier and be like, commentating out of breath and making everyone listen to heavy breath noises.
But yeah,
well, it is horse sex season, so it's probably about.
It is actually.
But
so
we're just touching on it, like the marketplace right now, like for an unclaimed ticket, I think it's about $44,000 for a female, and then for like a claimed ticket that's already ran, it's $33,000. So like to get in, it's obviously right now it's. I mean, maybe 2 weeks ago you could find something cheaper probably, but now that people are like hip to the deals, I feel like they're adjusting their prices accordingly, which is fair game, I guess. But yeah,
I mean, I think looking at the market right now too, you have to remember the market has absorbed quite a bit of purchases and new users added it over the last 3 weeks, I guess 2 weeks. So I think it's holding pretty well.
Yeah, it's nice to see the floor there.
But your deal is good, even if they bought a full, right? GVG, if they bought a full before August 1st, they can use that going forward. So there's not you don't have to have a Gen 0 ticket. You don't have to have a Gen 0 horse.
But some people want to get it done now instead of waiting 2 or 3 seasons, you know what I mean? But it's nice to have that, like, you can focus on racing and then be like, all right, I have this one breed in my back pocket, so I don't have to rush. Or you can rush and start your empire, as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think like one of the most successful things I've seen people doing that makes the most sense for someone that wants to get exposure to the game while also limiting, how much they're spending and making sure they actually can participate in the game very early on is they're, instead of spending the full amount they have that they are willing to put into the game on a filly, that's a Gen 1 filly that they're going to have to wait for. They're taking a considerable amount less and buying something a little lower grade, breeding that and waiting, and then going and learning and playing the claimers game. Because I think from a new user perspective, nothing is going to tune your skills and hone your skills better than a claimer type of environment, because you have to know your horse's value, the average horse's value in the fields, risk reward on races to enter, what to buy, what not to buy. The only way to make educated and informed decisions, those types of decisions, is to actually know the game. And so in this weird way, the loop and the cycle kind of pushes and is really a great place for people to learn the game, get exposure to the game, while they kind of plot and decide, how do I really want to approach this game long term? Which I think is a kind of an underappreciated element of it, of PFL in general. Yeah.
It's a good route.
So the breed deal, you guys went over it earlier. Any Gen 1, it can be a foal, it can be a Gen 0, just any female. If you buy a female that's already pregnant, then whenever she is available the next time, then you get your free breed. So some people are playing a 2-for-1 game if it makes sense, entry point wise. And then we have Doughboy. If you want to go to like my stable, have a foal. We're going to be just raffling off to everybody that participates. She's go like Right Dirt Firm, just female. Well, the one we're giving away will be born Monday. So I tell you what though.
What's the Gen 0 that has the baby inside it?
ISIS. She's a scuba. Yeah.
Go to ISIS and then go to the pro or the.
Yeah, if you just scroll, she won't be far. She won't be far down there. She's an S-.
We talked about you using the list format instead of the array format, Doughboy. What
we did talk about that.
Oh, we also talked about you shutting up, Stens. All right, we did talk about that.
If you feel comfortable, you could even show the breeding report to kind of show the stats and stuff.
Yeah, I just don't have it in front of me right now.
I have one that's almost identical.
I have a question. So, PPG. If people, your offer is through the 31st, is that correct?
Correct.
So people could actually buy some of the new foals.
They have basically 24 hours of getting the new second batch of Gen 1s.
Okay.
Correct.
Oh, wow.
I didn't realize that. That's really nice. So there will be
I did a one day overlap. So yeah. And so if you're a seller out there, keep that in consideration. If you're going to list, you probably want to go ahead and list pretty early Monday morning to give yourself the best option of someone seeing it that matches what they're wanting to do in the game and matches their price point. Because the upside on the free breed side is still there, so it makes sense for a lot of people. Especially, we'll see. One of the things I love about these market dynamics is how do the second batch of Gen 1s, as we've discussed, compare in price. I think you were pretty spot on there, Stens. I think there's not going to be drastic differences. There's going to be, like anything, the type of horse you're looking for, you're going to have probably an option of 2 to 3. And then there's always going to be varying pros and cons of each. So that's on everybody to make that decision. Is it worth a lesser amount to sit on the sidelines for one more month before I can do anything with this asset? It's a different answer for different people. So anyways, we have Isis here. We bred her. So go to Ledger. Yeah, we bred her with Deuce. You can see Isis's record there, by the way. 11 races, 3, and 2. Pretty good little runner. So we're pairing her with Deuce. He's an Astro S1 Colt. I think I want to say Deuce's. Let me see what his total boost was.
That looks like Ziggy.
So Deuce is a 20 boost S-, and Isis is a 19.5. So I'm raffling away a 20 and a 19.5, both S-. I think, Stans, what would you put this at? Probably a 65% chance of rolling an S? Higher.
They're both from 101s, right? So I would probably put it pretty close to. I would probably put it probably 60% it doesn't hit an S, 40% it does.
Interesting.
And if it doesn't hit an S, it'll be one of the top racing horses in S-, almost regardless. So I almost
want it to stay S-.
Exactly.
Especially for these newcomers, I really want them to have as much success on the track, or at least give them the biggest chance to have success on the track as possible, because I think that'll just be more enjoyable overall.
Absolutely. No, it could make a restricted killer. So, and then we'll see. The other exciting part of that, we don't know if this is going to be a filly. So if this is a filly, someone could be adding a really nice piece filly to their stable in addition to the female they purchased and the free breed. So a lot of upside. And I think, you know, as of now, I think we're somewhere around like 35 people that have actually purchased a filly and registered and done all the paperwork.
Wow.
So
Honestly,
we have a
I
bunch
was
that are
thinking it
kind
would
of
be
waiting
20.
on the sidelines. Yeah, we have a bunch that are like kind of waiting on the sidelines, still waiting for the right female. And I think
having
Monday
having
we
that
can see
extra
a lot
day,
of
I
action.
guarantee you'll see at least another 15.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot that are waiting for the
Because
second
it
crop.
definitely dried up pretty quick. I
Okay,
think.
so
Yeah.
GVG, what's your biggest piece of advice to the people that are going to be looking at the first set of foals? What can they really look for as like good values, not only that would match with you or OBB, but just in general? Like,
Yeah,
what are you looking for?
So for my stable specifically, 'cause you know, that's what I know best. I mean, they should be targeting right dirt firm, left dirt firm. Preferences are nice. They're not always everything. I would be looking to identify unique bloodlines if you can get access to unique bloodlines. In addition to, I'm going kind of with the theory of stacking attributes, specifically if those two horses also share what appears to be the same distance preference.
And when two horses, you're talking about, you're going to go to the bloodline, you're going to look at the parents, their stats, and see how the actual breed kind of works together on whether or not you want to buy that foal.
Exactly. So a few of the guys that have already purchased fillies and bred them in the free breed event, I've, you know, strategically helped navigate the marketplace with them and, you know, tried to match them with a female specifically to which of my studs they wanted to use. So whether that was Zeus or Hercules or Aristotle have been some of the most popular. And so we go out and say, hey, well, this is your, you know, this is his attributes. Since the variables on your side, you want to go out and find fillies that, you know, as closely match his strengths as we can. And then also obviously taking price points into consideration. So that would be my one piece of advice. You know, I think it's way too early. I enjoyed the earlier part of the discussion on, you know, the hot debate of, do I take my A to an S or do I take my A to an A plus? Do I take my A to an S minus? Is the middle ground the best? Is super slow or super fast? Way too early to start to, you know, throw any weight behind a confidence in any side strategy wise. Why we love the game, why we love to play the game is who can first start to identify what actually is the truth and what actually works the most and most consistently. There's also going to be the other side of the hand type of folk who are looking for the complete opposite of what the masses are going to be attracted to and find these really unique wrinkles that everybody 3-4 months later goes, oh, I see why they did that now. And then it becomes a new hot trend and people chase. And so it's going to be really interesting to see. I'm like super excited just to watch the population expand and really get to like kind of the vision of the game that we all have envisioned for quite some time. I do appreciate the team and, you know, their commitment to like, no, this is the plan. And if there's some suck along the way, there's some suck along the way. But, you know, things are made kind of, you know, the same reference you made earlier, Mike, you know, you got to let the full wave come in and come out. If you start to make drastic changes in market dynamics, then you end up with a, you know, an economy that changes and swings with, you know, anything that you change with it. So I think you got to let things play out, you know. The water always finds its level, so to speak. And I think that, yeah, the other thing I'm really excited about that Fib had talked about is, you know, the start of next season here, we're going to have a lot of different claimers and types of claimers in terms of price points, entry. Claiming prices will obviously stay the same, but entries are going to be changing quite a bit. So I think there's going to be a big opportunity for people who dive into that world and learn the ins and outs of it fully, can start to evaluate, you know, what type of competition is in certain types of levels of claimers and how can I manipulate this system. I think those are going to be there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, and no matter what, you're gaining experience, you're gaining knowledge, especially a lot of the noobs are asking, or new people are asking, what is boost? What does the preferences mean? But when you're actually in the claimer street, you're learning that on the fly, and that's so valuable in helping decide, the long-term impact of your decision making in buying and selling.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would add that like claimers aren't just a thing that's going on now while only the handful of below grade, not your best horses are racing. Like it's going to be a big part of the game forever. So like learn it now, and then the only thing that changes is, like you said, deciding which horses go where in terms of value. But like it's going to be a huge part of the game for forever. And the sooner you can learn it and get comfortable with it, get the impression aside of maybe losing a horse or whatever, like understanding how that all is going to flow from entry to claiming value to what you can win and how you can make profit doing so is very valuable. So you're not doing it when there are better horses or a million more horses to learn, things like that. Like it would be way easier to learn it now than it will in 4 months.
Maybe to prove I was actually listening when I'm not talking for 10 minutes at a time, which is probably a personal record. GVG, you said something very interesting in there about basically just go through the ledger and look. And I want to extrapolate on that of, this is a game where there are people with a lot of experience through multiple betas and maybe even a mobile game before that. But what's kind of unique and nice is you can pay attention to what everybody's doing in a time in which you can still react. So if you go to the GVG's stable and you click on all of his brood mares, you can see what he bred with this season. And in all likelihood, there's still a chance you can breed the same way if you want to. So if you don't want to do the homework and you trust other people, as long as you don't inbreed, hint, Lacey, you can tend to kind of follow along. And I think that's a nice way to save some time if that's a consideration for yourself.
Oh, you went back.
Yeah, I actually did the same thing with Stins in the first season, and it actually impacted my decision of what I was breeding. I saw he was giving up preferences, so I said, all right, well, I can't chase him there. He has better horses. Maybe I'll retain my preferences, and when I see him on the track, maybe that's how I can, negate what he did. So you can do both sides of that as well. I've done the same thing with GVG, really. It seems like I have to do the opposite of GVG for sure a lot of seasons, just to hope to get lucky a little bit.
Well, I was criticizing or suggesting that we keep things the last week of breeding, keep breeding the last week rather than move it up to the first. But one thing that I think the team really did right is keeping the 1 month seasons or 4 week seasons in seasons 4 and 5, and GVG bringing all these new players in and it allows people time to learn the game, and it allows the team time to get the schedule fine-tuned. So I think that was definitely the right decision, not speeding it up and letting people kind of learn the game and let them kind of get the claimers set up right and all that. So I think that was definitely the right decision on their part. I'm glad that they've done it, even if the racing is not what you necessarily want right now. I think rushing through that would have been a mistake. So I think it was a good job on their part.
I would really like to know from the viewpoint of the newcomers, like if they're onto the vibe of, we're all talking about how the racing could be crazy, how the aging dynamic could be crazy. Like, are they considering these types of things, you think? Will they be able to, adapt and understand what's going on? Or will it be the first time where nothing really makes sense to them, but in a way they're new, maybe nothing will make sense anyway? I don't know if that's going to be the net negative or the net, that we think it is. That's one of my biggest fears, is that these guys get in here, the Discord is really crazy because everyone's just upset with race results and aging and these different dynamics that might be playing out and might not be playing out. Like, we really question a lot of the race math early, but after a month and a half, 2 months, I would say it's like really good,
So, I mean, here's the 2 points on that I would make is, in my opinion, I'll build my own game eventually. Yes, I understand. it would have been best to use aging down the road when we feel as if we've gotten closer to really having a grasp on everything that we're seeing. It would have been a nice thing to add at that time. And you have this period of turnover and change and new people coming in, and it's going to be a complicating factor that even the OGs can't lead them through because the OGs don't know the answer to that. Mm-hmm. So I think that is a bit of a struggle. But the other point there, and where I kind of become numb to it, is we've had aging on before briefly in V3, and the team was quick to recognize that maybe this should be turned off. And the team has pivoted on injuries as well. Personally, I would love to see that as long as you're
reluctantly they pivoted, but they did finally.
Well, that's because it wasn't a sour suggestion. Someone else suggested that injuries might be a bad idea. So
very diplomatically, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. Appoint that person to the UN. But I think that means, like, even if we go with aging and it doesn't work, this isn't a team that's going to let us flounder with aging not working for a month. Like, I think they'll be very quick to turn it back off and be communicative of that. That's what they're doing. You're not going to have to figure out it was turned on and just kidding, now they turn it off. We'll know.
Yeah. I think, like, one of the arguments I would make for why to do it now would be, well, we have such a low population, and no matter what we say, we still are kind of in a beta version. You know, I mean, it's live or for real money, but, you know, even real money and human behavior dictates a new environment a lot of time. But I would say, why wouldn't you start it with a small population so you can actually know what's going on before your population's 20,000 and then changing the rules? Like, if you are going to try it, I feel like now would be the best time to try it than 6 months from now.
To be slightly blunt, the time to try it would have been in middle of V2, you know, but...
Well, if not, then no.
So here's the rules and stipulations for
the GVG offer.
The GVG-a-thon. Which probably should have called the GVG-a-thon.
And then keep scrolling there, and you can see OAB's the 6 stallions that he contributed. Yep, they're there. And you can go find his stable. Everybody listening, and go look at those and figure out if.
Wow, you know what? Actually, we were talking about an A- LDF sold to one of the newcomers right before the show. It was a Sage Panther. It's the very top A-, 3-match full preferences. But now that person can go to Meme God for free next month. I mean, even that is a great deal, and that's going to be. I mean, has Meme God even had many horses hit it yet? That's going to be such a unique bloodline.
Yeah, not really yet. I used it, I think 2 or 3 times internally in the first session. Didn't use it at all. This session was trying to, leave all of my studs alone for the most part, to leave as much covers for new players entering the game that wanted to take advantage of my offer. So, like, literally 95% of our breeding this month was external.
And even Hercules and Meme God, it's so tough to go, like, figure out which one's better. It's almost like Aristotle and Paul Bunyan and Right Dirt. It's like, it's so tough to, like, figure out. Obviously, both of them are going to be important the longer we go.
Yeah, I think you really can't go wrong with them. They both have slightly different attributes and distance preferences. So, I'd advise people to look at those and then judging based off their attributes what matches your affiliate the best, or affiliate that you're targeting.
Perfect.
Yeah, the other thing, part of that, back to that Discord, Doughboy, is YSM also joined in, is contributing with 5 covers for free with General Duke. That's a good value. Very generous of them. Then we have Blue Elder Racing. Tom, generous man. He is donating the offspring. We're going to do it the same as Isis and Deuce's offspring that we covered earlier in a raffle. We'll do it live on stream. And Tom bred Vinaigrette and Longitude. They're both 9 preference parents. I believe they're A's or
ALDS, and I raced against Vinaigrette a lot. It's perfect long distance, and it was the best in its class. Basically.
Yeah, so whoever gets this, I mean, if that's a filly, then man, you have a really good building piece for a Derby contender one day. So very generous of him to do that. And then today was the last piece, which this that we have up here hadn't even been updated, but that's Big Brain is I don't know what the word would be. Did a significant reduction in price. I mean, it basically equates to about 35 to 40% off, based off comparable foals that have sold and comparative to the similar foals on the market currently. And so, like, if you use those two to create a fair market value, then they're basically selling these like 35 to 40% off. So I can provide you the links to those horses and the prices for those horses if you want to DM me. The reason we're doing that is so that people don't see them and then constantly be looking on the market for when they hit. So when the buyer, we're forced to do, public transactions on the marketplace currently. So we're trying to kind of keep under wraps of who they are, so that when the person does agree to buy it and it hits the marketplace, not everybody knows it's coming, so to speak. So
you're
I'm not sure of the exact
stop
horses
Stens
either.
from sniping it. Is that right?
Exactly.
And I would say
it
could be more than 40% because all their horses are great. If you look at the past sells, a lot of the great horses are not selling. It's second tier, or it's tiers that it's still early in the game. No one wants to get rid of their super quality stuff. So even if you're comparing it to what has sold, I would argue you're probably getting even more percentage off there because they have really good horses. And I've already bought one of those through them myself.
Yeah, I mean, all three are, very low entry points, but comparably, you're getting a grade or two higher for the price point is basically what it equates to.
Yeah, the quality is there.
Exactly.
I don't know the exact horses.
So very generous to Big Brain and that crew. Appreciate you. Every little bit helps. So super excited about the event. I've created a lot of work for myself with it, but that's all good. It's going to go on for a few months with people that have bought, bred horses. But hey, man, I'm here for it, and I'll be here for it.
It's going to be a good time. It's definitely going to be a good time.
Cool. I think that's it for me, guys. I'm getting out of here. I appreciate you all.
Sir.
Yep. So,
but
I gotta roll.
I appreciate you coming on. Obviously,
Yeah, thanks to GVG. Thanks, VJ. Good to see you guys. Stins, you're sharp shins for a reason, and Mr. B is just the man that I want to be one day. And Joe, thanks for hosting us and having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for dedicating some time. Appreciate it. Did he leave? All right, he's out.
We can badmouth him now.
Now we can talk about him. Yeah. Okay. Can't believe he priced Doc so low. What a joke!
No, I want to go. Yeah, I want to go back and I want to touch on the breed conversation, because if you look, I mean, not everyone's looking, but Tony Rigatoni, I had them both pulled up. Tony Rigatoni is someone who was priced quite high for an S. I mean, not quite high. He was priced what he was priced at.
I think he was 80, and then he went to 30, and now he's what, 15?
Yeah. Yeah, so he was, was it 80 or was it 50 right or 30 right away? It was 30.
No, I think it was 80. I don't think he got any covers.
2, 3. I mean, he had 3 from last year.
Yeah, it was either 80 or 100,000, one of the two.
All right, well.
You'd have to scroll all the way there, but
there's 4 on the prop. Yeah, either way. Price too high, no one touched him. Price too high, no one touched him. Put value on him, and he's gotten hit 14 times this season for a third, for a little under $200. And then Zephyr did the same thing, the other S+. But I feel like because that one dropped, there was competition for both. I guess, maybe there's not competition for both, but there's really no preferences. So they all hit Tony Rigatoni, and Zephyr got less coverage than he did when he had his original price on. But I think that's all right, because you're we talked about it. You're allowing people access to cheap bloodlines to build out. We're building the roots of our bloodline trees now, and having that, we looked at the real life thing. It's not going to matter for a little bit, but once we get to horses having grandparents and great grandparents, and you see where the prices of those stallions that day for that breed, and then look at them what they are, 4 or 5 seasons down, they're probably going to be higher. Like you guys talked about it too. Like there's a world that you're going to need that stallion, 4 seasons down the road to like complete your puzzle. But it all depends on how you want to craft it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think what happens, and one of the reasons why people were kind of getting upset, is people had expectations of what prices they thought they were going to get. And the market speaks, and the market was loud and clear. You weren't going to get $80K for Tony Rigatoni, at least at this point. And so the reason why you don't see it in the ledger is he didn't have any breeds at 80. Then he lowered it to 30, didn't have that many, but he had some. And then he's like, you know what? That's still too high. Let me go to 15. And now he's getting a lot more action. So, you have to adapt. And I think Philly Shell and I don't actually know who owns Zoom Zephyr, but, they've adapted to the market and they've adjusted their prices. And, you look at the thing. I mean, I hadn't even considered Tony Rigatoni with any of my horses last breeding period. And now at 15, I'm like, well,
But that's the thing. Like, what's it going to be next month? Does it stay at 15, or does he try and get a little bit more and maybe go 10?
I don't.
5,
yeah, he might. I think this is probably not a bad price, and it might stay there. We'll see what happens when some of the foals are able to start breeding as well. And then the number. It's a great horse. I always call them a transition horse because they have no preferences, but they can boost you way up in grade. It's a very good horse to kind of move yourself up quickly. And I think Steelheart had a horse, I can't remember the name of it, that he bred with Tony Rigatoni in one of the betas that just turned out to be like a monster breeder down the road. So it is a valuable horse. I think it was overpriced and they adjusted. And, I look at it and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, like Stens is trying to breed. We go back to his hitting Walter White and maybe some people hitting Mundo, but you can easily, right? If you hit your fillies with Rigatoni, you're going to lose the right and the turf, but you're guaranteed to get a firm there, right? So you definitely get an RTF, probably almost guaranteed to get an S, I would think, or a very good chance. That's a good question, actually. Are you better off? You're more likely to get an S with Rigatoni or with Jupiter, ignoring preferences. You say you had an A+.
Oh, it would, for the global grade, it's got to be Rigatoni.
Right.
And I think what you're talking about is probably best described by saying if you had an A+ with 7 total preferences, then probably you hit Jupiter. But if you had an A+ with, say, 3 preferences, then hitting Tony Rigatoni makes perfect sense in that sense. I mean, I think the thing that is being overblown is it's clear there's a rotation, and I talked about it earlier on the stream, so I won't beat it to death again now, but people are absorbing a lot of covers with the limits we have and the pricing we have, but people are moving to something different the next month, and they're moving something different the month after that. So the person that filled everything for the first month, we talked about Lord Strange, a couple of those, they got less this month. Blue Narch sells out this month. He probably gets less next month and less the month after that. So they're getting it, but after a 4 or 6 month cycle, as Sowers would say, does everything work itself out? And it's hard to wait and hope someone clicks on your horse and pays you. But I guess I would say, like, if you have an asset that you feel is a strong asset and it's differentiated in one way or another, including that no one else has used it, then you have a decision to try to compete on price or not compete on price. But I just don't think I don't think it's a flaw in the game. I don't think it's a bad design. I think people are floating to quality that's available at cheap prices. And maybe the value is to do the opposite. So Sowers talked about that as well. I know Lacey likes it. Breed up slowly then. If everybody's going to Serenity now at LTS, the S, if that doesn't end up being the right thing, even if it's the cheapest thing, the most expedient thing, if long-term that's a bad play, then going up slowly might be a viable solution because either you had a colt you could use there or those colts had to compete on price as well. and it's a way to differentiate yourself. I'm one of the biggest proponents of differentiating yourself. I want to do something that no one else has done before anybody else has done it. So that's why I did a couple inbreeding examples. That's why I use RTS studs for our RTF fillies. I'm going to keep experimenting as long as I feel like I'm the first person to do it.
Me, I'm cheap. I just go for value. If I see a good value play, I do it. I don't really worry too much about fine tuning it. Maybe that's just because I have so many. But if I get a really good deal on something, I'm just going to do it, and I'll probably run it back the next month. I'm not going to overthink it.
What are your archetypes? I know I asked you on the last stream, but what archetypes are you in?
God, I'm kind of in everyone, but I'd say that my strongest is RTF. I think that's my favorite archetype. Did you
do any RDF breeding?
RDF, I have a couple, but I have lower grade. I sold my top
GVGs now.
GVG.
Yeah.
So
GVG's there. I have my foot in the door with the mare. So like, I think it's gonna be fun over there for a little bit. It's gonna be fun definitely down the road. I tell you, RDF's definitely gonna be fun.
Well, yeah. I want to, that. By the way, you saw that tweet the other day with GVG kind of trolling Wolof and Lolly and Kamish with the photo of him coming in first, second, and third. I think their horses were like fourth, fifth, and sixth. So that could be a nice, fun rivalry there. And there's lots of other good RDF stables. So RDF is just stacked.
I forgot to ask him when he was up. He hit Supersonic with Morningwood again. I don't know if he has a breed deal. That's why I wanted to ask him if it was public or if he just.
No, he's paying full price.
Jeez,
worked out, right? You got an S+ first try, so why not run it back?
But like
Dan, you said something earlier, and I was going to ask you something. You walked away. In regards to the people that are selling out now, maybe it finds its level over like 3 or 4 seasons, 5, 6, whatever. At least from my perspective with Balloon Arch, is there's 3 max boost A+ currently at RTF. How many will there be in 5 seasons? Because either one, they hit Balloon Arch or hit somebody else. That's kind of one of the reasons, again, why maybe I push it forward. Now, if you have something super rare like S- or S, it's probably longer till somebody gets, a 9 out of 9 RDF that doesn't have prime times blood, right? But very easily, that first cycle that a colt turns 3, you might have 5 new A+ that have max boost, right? So that is something I think maybe some people are forgetting. Like, yeah, we've talked maybe in the past, Gen 0 might be better breeders than the Gen 1s, but we don't know that. And if the biggest play for Balloon Arch or somebody like that is for those 9 preferences, do you really care that it might have not 3S? Maybe it has 4 A+ and 2 S- stats. Do you really care? It's mostly those 9 preferences that you want. So that's kind of one of those things that I've thought about, is just like, we just don't know what all these Gen 1s that are going to be out there are. Now, I know we can see the first population of Gen 1s now already. How many already have it? I haven't even looked. I know it's in the spreadsheet that we're showing now, but or on Gap data, but that was kind of one of the other things. It's just like, eventually he's not going to be as unique, where like the higher upgrades will stay unique longer.
I think that's a fair point. I think people tend to look at things as a static, and they say, what's it at now? And okay, well, there's only 3 of them now, but there's going to be more than 3. So you have to almost look and extrapolate what the market's going to look like down the road. And people might be making a mistake thinking that, okay, I'm going to wait and they're going to hit my A+, because if there's 12 of them in 5 months, then what makes you think they're going to hit yours? Now you have to assume that they're going to want yours, or you have to assume that the Gen 0s are going to be the better breeders, which they might be. So there's lots of kind of dynamics there, and you have to kind of, make a guess and hope it works out that way. But it's not like a clear answer, like, oh, okay, I can wait and it's going to be worth stuff down the road. You might be selling too cheap now, and the number of covers for Balloon Arch might die down, or the people that waited might just find themselves waiting, and next thing you know, the people that would have hit them over Balloon Arch are now going to hit a different A plus that's got 9 preferences. So you just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be more horses too. So the 35 cover hopefully, becomes where like many people can fill however many they really desire. I definitely was not a fan of 35 from the start, but I think personally to change it now, I mean, people just reacted based on it. Everything was done within the rules of the game. It wasn't some exploit that somebody figured out how to do something out of the rules. So would I have loved to see it start at 15 and then go to 20 and then go to 25 or whatever? For sure. But I think changing it now would be more harmful than good.
I think if it was lower to start, you have more diversity in the breeding, but like we'll get there at some point. It's gonna be slow and steady instead of like if you capped them at 15 to start, how many like if you put Balloon Arch in, what was Balloon Arch in last season? $75, $100?
He was $100 and he sold 8.
Yeah.
So
like
15 didn't matter for him at that price.
The
but
world gets pushed, Like, did you see what other A pluses sold more than you?
there was I think there was like one A horse that had like 16 or 17. Like I said, Brad's horse that was very similar to Balloon Arch. I think he mirrored me with 8 breeds. So like it wasn't really going to change much the first season. There was a couple at LDS that did get to 35, and I think a handful more that got to 20. But yeah, there wasn't many horses that would have been extremely impacted. Stens would have been impacted just from an in-house perspective, but he's one of the few that can do that. So yeah, I think we're fine. I think like you said, the nice part is the team didn't speed this part up. Everything, they kind of stuck to their guns, and everything's just going to work out. Like, so we've had more users, I think, than we thought during this time. Like, I think it ended up being the right call, and I think it's kind of self-cleansing in a way where, in 2 seasons we're going to have all the Gen 1s and the Gen 2s that need to breed. So you doubled, well, not doubled because maybe 50% were, but you're going to have 1.5 times the number of fillies out there. So that's more covers, and none of those Gen 1s can hit the same as the Gen 0 did. So none of those can hit Lord Strange. None of those can hit Balloon Arch, right? They're going to filter out. So by this time next year, I mean, there's going to be so many. It grows quick, like you guys have talked about in the betas. Like, it goes quick. People are going to have to sell horses because you're not going to be able to hold on to them all forever. So. Because they die, right? Because they have a useful life, you can't properly spend the amount of time needed to run that many. So if they never died, you could hold on to them forever and just pick and choose when you want to use them. But
you plan on keeping Balloon Arch the same next season, or are you going to boost him to 75 and see what happens?
No, I'll probably keep him. At min. I think the people that got on the first month get that whole first month advantage of having those preferences, and they'll have the first offspring colt that maybe can compete with them in the barn. So you pay a little bit of premium, and then from now on he'll probably sit at min, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I think it's hard to raise prices. I think, particularly in the market right now.
Yeah,
I don't think you're going to get covers or a lot of covers if you raise prices. So
if you go to 75, you get you still get 25, 30.
No way.
No?
He got, how many did he get last time? You said 8?
He got 8 at 100, and he sold out at 50. You only the middle ground 75?
Well,
because you got to keep in mind 2 populations have already used them, regardless of what the price is.
So unless you're a repeat customer, which I think there were some of those 8, there was a handful, maybe, or 2 or 3, not even a handful.
I'm of the run it back kind. I would, if I had like an A- RTF filly with 9 preferences, I would hit Balloon Arch 3 times, 4 times. I just keep on running it back. There's no reason. There's no reason.
I didn't get to hit any line this month, so I'm not running back any with him. I let it just sell out, but I was going to, even though I liked the results that I saw the first time. I mean, he turned a couple A-minuses into A-pluses, I think, in my own barn. So,
Yeah, well, you know.
Now Stens is different. Stens has it all like figured out, and he's got like 3 or
A
4 different options. So it
a
makes
different
sense.
sire each month, yeah.
But I'm
Well, I
kind
just
of
think,
like,
yeah. I mean, I did what you're talking about in the betas. One, because I didn't care too much and breed, and be done with it. But it's hard to know, and I'll touch back on Lacey's last point in the chat of, or they managed to breed their own internal max preference stud. Yeah, but we don't know that that's a better option. So what we're left with is the OGs of the community, the people that played both beta V1 and V2 and bred 20 seasons down or whatever it ended up being, probably more than that. It seemed to be the consensus preferred Gen 0 blood because it was more consistent, and it was more consistent. I don't think that part is debatable. What becomes debatable now is because we have more visibility with the breeding reports. Is there a different path forward that says, now that you can kind of see what you're doing, even if the downside risk is still there, so you're choosing the inconsistent outcome, you can also see the upside. And what we didn't know in betas, we didn't see a chart that said, yeah, but if you breed these two together, you can actually get SS speed out of this outcome of 2S minus horses together. So the other game taught me well that the thing that was most likely to happen is what exactly happened, or the most likely explanation is the right explanation. So even though we have these breeding reports, I'm suspicious that breeding changed too much. Now people are pointing to sire and dam coming together and making a full of a global grade below either sire or dam. And we've seen a couple examples. Wolof bought one where like an A- and an A made an A+. We didn't see that many of those in beta, so people are suspecting that they've tuned up variance within breeding. Possible. What also is possible is that because all the stats are pretty uniform now, that by having the stats more uniform, you're getting outcomes that go up because you're breeding strengths into strengths, and sometimes you miss the wick lower. So my gut says breeding is probably relatively unchanged. I don't have anything to prove that, and no one has seen a Gen 1 breeding report. But I want to give myself the option if Gen 1 breeding seems to be the play going forward, and you don't give yourself that option if you run it back. So if a JJ breeds with Balloon Arch 3 straight months, he can't breed any of those foals with Balloon Arch. He can't breed any of those foals with the foals from Balloon Arch. So if I switch sires, at least not the first season, because I'm breeding 1 sire per season more or less, but the second season, I give myself the chance to breed those together. And then I actually have the benefit of understanding the outcomes of the first season. So that's partially why I picked a sire per season, because someone's going to do that before me, and I'll know based on the reveal of the global grade if it seemed like something that was worthwhile doing. And the next season, I can actually do that myself.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. That's well said.
It's nice. We can wrap it up.
I hadn't thought of that, but that makes a lot of sense.
We can wrap it
Yeah,
up
I mean, I'm lucky enough to have both sides of right turf, and I'm building up uniques on both sides. So I think I will be okay with the ones, Gen 1s hitting Gen 1s, because, you know, I can just mix preference and things like that. But eventually going to have to go out of house. Anyone's crazy if they think that they're always just going to breed in-house. It's only going to get more and more complex. So.
Like unless you have like everything, you can't really stay in house.
Big Brain probably could between their 3 barns, but other than that, like,
OEB,
and they're not doing it. Yeah, OEB probably could because he's got 1,000. But even Stens, like, he's hitting shit outside, and even if he wasn't right now, he would eventually because you eventually just get blocked.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's it. Get your last minute breeds in. Sunday it closes.
Yeah, are you done, Stens? But aside from Apollo?
Wait, when is it closed Sunday, or is it closed like at 9 o'clock Monday morning? When is it?
Yeah, 9 Monday morning.
29th.
Yeah, we'll quickly hope Rose of Zion has lapse in judgment and goes and joins Mr. B at the 4,000 price club. But absent that, we'll run the Apollo train shortly after the Derby, probably. So, and if we want to do a 10-minute reveal on Apollo on stream or something like that, we certainly can. So, and I'll join you just to tease your next show, I think, or what I think is your next show. I'll join you on Monday morning when Foles reveal. We won't see the reveals. I think there's going to be a special guest that has a pretty high priority reveal to show, and I want to see his live reaction to what he gets. So I think at a minimum, next show is Monday morning. If that would be what, 10:30 Eastern, something like that. For JJ,
stud listings close on Sunday. All right, they need to get this shit together. Put it on there too.
Yeah, you have to have it in. You have to have your horse stud in there Sunday for 24 hours, and then
Monday stream.
It closes Monday, and then 30 minutes later, Foles are in the barn. So if you want to start the stream at 9:30 and talk about the ones that are about, everything's closed, that's whenever you want to. But that's the time frame.
I didn't know you were the conductor of this train.
No, I'm just saying that's your final breed, and then you have 30-minute gap, and then Foles.
I think that's when I'm gonna fire the stream up at 9:30, because I'm gonna have Mo come by and talk about because he's building the tree out, and Sten's found that's what Stens is looking for. So I told him, I was like, come by and like explain your process. And Stens, obviously, if you're free or if you're in the chat, whatever, touch base on that if you'd like, or if you want to come up and reveal Apollo or do whatever you're gonna do, we'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm gonna have him come on, explain his breeding tree, because he's taking it slow and steady. He's not doing what I'm doing. I'm going right to the fucking top with the mare. I'm trying to get the best every time. I'm not trying to build out S- with an S-. I want an S every month as long as I possibly can.
You know what'd be interesting? It was somewhat anticlimactic, or just too much last period at like 10 o'clock. You click on your stable and all the foals are there. It would be kind of neat if you had to click foal by
the reveal button. Yeah, reveal button. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you had to do an HRM. It was an HRM.
I was going to say, they did an HRM, and I think it eventually will be in the game. It's a nice to have, not a need to have, obviously. So
it'll make your stream more interesting if you could like click and say, "Oh,
I mean, we need a lot more to make this stream more interesting
for content helper, right? I gotta build. I have fucking Stens on every goddamn week, so every time I just get bounced lower and lower and lower. So they're not gonna help me out as much. And I accept that.
That's probably true. I accept.
You know what I mean, I can be bought. My pockets can be padded, but until
as much as Ian and Stens have had their disagreements, Ian knows that Stens is like super sharp. So it's probably best at times if he kept his mouth shut, but he certainly knows what he's talking about.
I hold allegiance to no one. If someone puts some dollars in my pocket and says, call Stens a bad man, I'll tweet it and say he's a bad man. But
you don't have to pay me anything to say that. I'll say it for free.
You probably already sent it to your Solana wallet, and you're just not familiar enough with Phantom. It's probably already there. You had strict instructions on what to say.
I have $8 in there right now, so that's bad.
That was probably what he thought was all that necessary to say something bad.
A bad liar about what? If someone pays me, I'll say, listen. If someone slips some dollars in my wallet, I'll say some nice things and I'll say some bad things. You get to choose. But yeah, Monday I'm gonna do the reveal stream again. I'm gonna see if I can. There's a way that I can like have the page pulled up and like drag something else to like block. But I think we like having a reveal button would be fucking nice. Like we did it for the racing. Like no spoiler. Why can't we? You know what I mean? Get that implemented by Monday morning just for me. Wouldn't be bad.
Maybe they get that for season 6.
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna have to really truly start picking Doughboy. Just won a graded race while I was on here. You seem to bring all the luck. And got 2 breeds. So
I bring all the luck. I bring all the business to the stud barn.
I say this stream just brings in the money, man.
Get the fuck out of here.
You're basically an influencer at this point.
Yeah.
Might as well be. I know how to use clip on YouTube, so watch out. I wish I could clip 10-minute segments because the stream we had earlier the week, we had a really good conversation on claiming and maiden claiming races, which was about 10 to 12 minutes. I wish I could just clip that and post it. Like when we talked about farming, there was some good little tidbits in there. once I figure out how to do the timestamps where you can just like jump to the segment, I don't know if I have to be like a special thing on YouTube about that, but once I can get that done, that would be great. Like you can just hard code in like the time and click on the timestamp and it goes right to that part. But yeah, we had, I think it was from minute 13 to minute 25 or 26, we discussed maiden claimings. And then I remember, Third Time Thursday, they were very, they seemed very reluctant to have it in their fucking plans for this upcoming season, but I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping they went back to the table and said, oh, we probably need maiden claiming. I think that would be an second excellent addition, and give me a reveal button and give us maiden claiming. And I think that's a good start for real season 1, in my opinion. But yeah, Tuesday or Monday, I'm gonna start at 9:30 and have people up in between. Lacey, if you want to come up and talk, you're always welcome to come on stream. I just got to keep you away from good guy extends. You know what I mean? I don't want no arguments up here.
That'd be like matter and anti-matter. I don't think you want that.
I do remember back in the day, Lacey does get heated, so she'll fuck you up, bro. Like anyone who fucks with her, she'll get there. Margarita Friday, that was the best time to start shit with Lacey. She bust everybody up. But yeah, it'll be a decent show on Monday. Yeah, I have a nice guest with a great reveal, so I'll get that tweet out probably tomorrow and start circulating it. But yeah, thanks. RVA, thank you for setting Bachelor time to the side and coming and patting your own pockets on my stream. Appreciate that. Stan's always very insightful. Probably the smartest PFL player I ever met. And I know GVG and I know Mr. B, so there's that. And Mr. B, you're always welcome to come on and rant about things that grind your gears. I got no problem with that.
What about the Mets? Mets grind your gears or not? It's 2 shows in a row with the Mets hat.
You wear the hat when they're good. You wear the hat when they're bad. What can you do?
When are they ever good?
Show for a different day, I think, on that one.
They're getting ready to trade the mistake of Verlander. That was a fucking genius signing. Couldn't wait for that to unpan.
It could have been worse. They could have paid DeGrom the money, and then they'd be stuck, throwing money away for 5 years rather than 2. So
Mets gonna Met. You and Zook are Mets fans, so that's great. You have that in common with him. I don't know if that's good or bad.
That means I'm going to start covering. So I'm doing pickleball next. Is that what it means?
He's done with it. I don't know. I hope he's not done with it. I hope he's still doing something. But
you got to get him back. He's got to change his mind and come back. You guys are so good together.
In 2 months, when Joey Porter Jr.'s foal, I can't say the name out loud because if someone steals it, he'll be pissed. But he has 2 pretty good names. I mean, the one he already revealed, but yeah, he'll probably come back when that foal is born.
Good.
And who knows? Maybe we'll just have like a trio of Serenity Now babies from here until then. But yeah. Thanks to everyone who puts their studs in at a reasonable price and reasonable access. I understand both sides of it. I think it's a time and place for both sides. And this time for me is value time, so I'll always take the value. And it's not always $50 value. Like I said, Ace King was $350 last season, and to me that was value, and to a lot of other people it was value. This season he was in for $200. That's fucking bigger value. And I consider going back to the well on him, but I think we're gonna switch it up this month and see what happens next month. But yeah, thank you both for your time. Chat, thanks for hanging out.
All right.
If you're not following, hit the follow button. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you Monday morning by 9:30 Eastern time. Gents, y'all have a good night. Chat, you have a good night.
Take care.
Out.